back in studio once again in the lovely upstate of South Carolina. And as Lonzo said when he walked in the door this morning, I don't know if we are the first to tell you, but it's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Yeah. Let's get that bread, people. Let's get some smoke. We have had a spectacular 2 weeks of broadcasting. 2 weeks ago in Atlanta, Georgia for SEC Media Days. The last 3 days in Charlotte, North Carolina for ACC Media Days. And this is true, Lonzo, I'm very ready for a nap.
Which town was or city, major city, was better for you? Which one did you enjoy more?
So that is a two-part answer. This year it's Atlanta, but that is because I had fewer obligations and more time in Atlanta. So I got to actually go do a little bit more stuff. The last couple of years when I've gone to Charlotte, I've cut out a lot of time to go do stuff. But this year, since it was only 3 days, I didn't have quite as much time. And 2 of the nights that I was there, I kind of had some obligations that it was fine. Like on Tuesday, my drummer from my band, Jeremy, lives up there now. And so Tuesday night we planned, he and I were gonna go out and we were going to get into some shenanigans, and we did. We got into he introduced me to a couple of nice little breweries around uptown Charlotte, one of them called Hop Fly, which I am a huge fan of. Hop Fly Brewery they do all of their beers are internationally styled, right? So it's like they do like a very specific German beer, and they did a New Zealand style lager, which I'd never had before, and it was terrific. They do beers from around the world.
Style, but is it actually do they actually come from those countries?
No, they brew them right there in Charlotte.
Oh, okay.
But what they do is they have sent people to breweries in other countries to like learn from them and figure out this is how we do our beer in New Zealand or Germany or Czechoslovakia or Ukraine or whatever. And then they bring those back and they do their take on them. So it's kind of a fusion style of beer, which I didn't know was a thing.
When you were looking at the menu, did you try to pick the one thing that's the weirdest place?
No, I did flights. Like
okay.
So you can do a flight where they'll bring you like 5, but it's like a 1.5, 2 ounce sample of each beer. So we kind of Epcotted it. We kind of drank around the world. We tried beers from different places and different countries and different styles of brewing. And I tried some stuff that I've A, never had before, and B, if I had to buy a full beer, I don't know that I ever would have ordered one because like I don't know what New Zealand style brewing is, so I don't want to spend $9 on a beer and get it and go, oh, this sucks, I hate it. But they let us
made
try
with
different
ground
stuff.
dingo.
I think that's Australia, isn't it? I don't know where dingoes are from. I just know they eat babies. By the way, you ever heard the story of the dingo ate my baby lady? It turns out a dingo actually did eat her baby. Like, that's a thing that happened to her. Like, a lot of people were using it. They thought she was covering up that she killed her own kid. And then after a couple of years, people started digging into the research, and they actually found out that a dingo actually did eat her baby. So it's like, we've been making this joke about this lady for a long time. Turns out she had, like, the saddest imaginable thing happen. It's Friday, y'all. It's going to get weird. You know how Fridays work.
You're right. Dingoes are not native to New Zealand.
That's what I thought.
So
Also, more importantly, turns out Justin Fields did just dislocate his toe. Not his truck.
Okay,
I need you to know, I'm not kidding. The end of the show yesterday was an absolute kick in the rocks for me because I am, as much as I've talked about this kid, I genuinely am pulling for Justin Fields because I don't think he's actually ever gotten a fair. I kind of feel the same way about Trevor Lawrence. I don't think he's really gotten a fair shake to like have some stability in a franchise around him. So when Lonzo told me he got carted off the field at Jets training camp yesterday, it was a kick in the boys for me because I'm pulling for this kid. And when that happened, I'm like, oh God, because immediately, and social media, immediately rumors of an Achilles tear started popping up. I think even Shefty put up a tweet that was like, the team fears it was an Achilles tear because of the way he was hopping around, but apparently he just dislocated his right toe. Now, that still sucks.
I was going to say, I've broken toes, and you don't realize how much your toes, you really use them, especially your big toe.
Yeah. It sucks a lot. Like I've had plenty of dislocated fingers. I've never dislocated a toe, but from what I've talked, like folks I've talked to since we had this conversation yesterday, it's apparently like painful and it lasts for a while.
Broke my right toe in wrestling practice when a 300+ guy jumped up and his heel landed on my toe. It was not good.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk a little bit about that later on. We're gonna talk quite a bit of NFL because you may or may not know this. The Hall of Fame game is now 6 days away. Yeah, I know it's just one game. It's a preseason game. Most of y'all don't care. I do. I love preseason NFL football, not for the same reason that we love the regular season football. I love preseason football because I do think preseason football is, as far as the NFL goes, it is the most pure version of football. It is a bunch of dudes out there trying to get a job. I talked to last Saturday, just to kind of put it into perspective. Cody Decker and I were talking about this last Saturday. And because one of our producers in the background was like, who the hell cares about preseason football, right? It's a bunch of nobodies playing. And I said, yeah, but you got to think a lot of those bunch of nobodies, a lot of that bunch of nobodies are fighting for a job, for something they've done for a long time.
It's like watching American Idol. It's going to be whittled down over a few weeks, and the best ones are going to make it on the team.
I don't disagree, but like imagine if it was American Idol, except for if you got booted off American Idol, you're never allowed to sing again, right? Like that. This is for a lot of these guys. If they don't get a job, that's it. Their football career is just over. I asked Cody Decker because he's a former Major League Baseball player, but he spent most of his career in the minor leagues trying to make big league rosters, and he got a couple of call-ups, but ordinarily he was kind of a depth guy, and they got sent back down. So he told me this. He told me a story that in his last year he was with the Padres organization. And he told the story that in his last year in training camp leading up to final cuts when they were going to set the roster for the big league roster on opening day, he said that he was in the cage taking BP and he fouled off a ball that like freak of nature accident, fouled off a ball, it hit the post off the batting cage, came back and just slammed him in the noggin. He said, I got KO'd, straight up knocked out. He said, I don't remember it. I got told what happened. So he said the training staff came over, they picked me up, they brought me out of the cage, and they were like, are you good? Are you good? And he goes, looking back at it now, I wasn't good. I was dizzy. I didn't know where I was. I was very confused. He said, but I've been sleeping in my car for like 3 weeks leading up to this. I didn't have enough money. I got paid $300 a week. I didn't have money for hotels. I didn't have money for an apartment. I was sleeping in my car in the parking lot of the training facility. Like I showered there. I changed there. Everything I did, I was in the facility as often as I could. And if we got kicked out of the facility, I had to go sleep in my car. So what do you think I told the trainers? I'm great. Everything's amazing. I'm perfect. In fact, I'm better than I've ever been. I think that ball may have unlocked my superpowers by hitting me in the head. I'm great. I'm as good as I've ever been. He said, because if I did not make at least the AAA training squad, and I was an older cat in baseball years, I was an older guy at this point. He said, if I did not at least make the AAA roster, my baseball career was over, and I had nothing else. I've never done anything else. So you take that knowledge, that raw energy, that if I don't make this roster, if I don't make this cut, I'm done. My career's over. And if these guys have been, guys that have been riding practice squad rosters for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and they're in their, late 20s, and they've not been able to really puncture and stick on a main roster, that's it for them. They're done. They're cooked. That career's over. And for a lot of them, because even practice squad guys in the NFL were the best college players you watched on Saturdays a few years ago. That may be all they've done. They played football through college. They either got drafted or they got picked up as a UDFA straight into the NFL. And if they get booted from the NFL, that's it. They're done. They got nothing else. They got to go start a whole new career, right? People have told me before, Rob, why are you still doing local radio? And the answer is A, because I love it, like these dudes playing football do, or you like to think most of them do. But B,
you also still get paid. I mean,
and I do get, I get paid.
I
get paid, but here's the thing, and I've never made a secret of it. Nobody's getting rich doing what I do. I feel that I am rich because I genuinely love my job. I get up at 3:30 in the morning. I don't get up at 3:30 in the morning for my wife. Well, I mean, sometimes. But, like, you get the point. Like, I don't get up that early for anything. If I get up at 3:30 in the morning, I'm going deep sea fishing with the boys or I'm coming into work. And that's it. I love my job. And I get to do cool stuff that, respectfully, most of y'all don't get to do. I get to go to ACC Media Days and, have an interaction with Bill Belichick and Dabo Swinney regularly. That's just part of my life. If I want to go to Clemson, North Carolina, when those two football teams get together in a couple of months, and Dabo v. Bill Belichick for the first time at the college levels, first time ever, but at the college level takes place, guess where I'm going to be sitting? Press box, air conditioned, free food, catered, everything I can eat and drink during a football game. Are you kidding me? That's a $1,000 experience for you guys. That's just part of my job, right? So, I get all this. It's all well and good. But the other aspect is, if tomorrow the boss goes, hey, you suck at your job and you're fired now, Rob Brown, I haven't done anything else my entire adult life. This is all I've done. I started doing this kickoff of football season will be 18 years. 3 weeks from now, 18 years I've been doing this job. I've never done anything else since I was 22 years old. I don't know what the hell I'd go do, honestly.
Trust me, I have had these thoughts because I've been in radio going on 29 years now, and it's like, okay, I don't know what age factors in for me too. It's like, what else could I do? Yeah.
I mean, Lonzo's going to be leaning on that grocery store stocking experience. Your boy's going to go back to what? Like being a bank teller?
Nah, here's the thing.
I hated?
Here's the thing. I'm going to be checking Rob's receipt every time he goes.
You would, sir, can I see your receipt, please? I have two things.
I'll do it in that voice too.
I have no doubt.
I will personally go to the store where I know you shop and get a job just so I can do that.
You'd be hanging out with old Myrtle over there. Yeah. I'm being tagged. They'll put one at both exits so I can't sneak out the other door. So I love preseason NFL football.
It's still NFL. I know that these are again some guys who won't make the team, but there are a bunch of guys on these that will make the team though.
100%.
They may end up being on special teams. They may end up being on the practice squad, but eventually, hopefully they make it to the big show. And it's like, yeah, I remember seeing them when they were playing in the Hall of Fame game, and now look at them now. They're MVP of the league. Yeah. It can happen.
I would also point out, a lot of these guys you're going to pull and go, I saw that guy play in the Hall of Fame game. I remember when he was trying to make the team, whatever. And there's also going to be a lot of guys that they're going to go, this is his 6th year in the league. He has 0 regular season games, and a lot of folks feel like if he doesn't get it done in this preseason, they probably move on, right? Because you want guys on your practice squad who can help, but you want young guys on your practice squad that you can that guy's got it. So if something goes wrong and you got to move everybody up one, your practice squad guy, he's got capability, and that leads to a spot where these dudes are going to be fighting for their lives. And that is part of the reason I love preseason football. On top of that, I am an X's and O's dork. I am the dude that if we see a great football game, I watch it back 3 or 4 times. I watch it the first time like all of you. I watch the second time for the entertainment aspect of it. And the third time I watch it, I'm watching every play 2, 3, 4 times. I'm watching every touchdown play 3, 4 times. Like, what was the block or the move or the shift or the whatever, the audible that made this play successful so that we can talk about that on Monday. I love the Hall of Fame game. The wife is aware. Like, we have a joint Google calendar where we block off nights. Hey, this night I'm going out with the girls. This night this day I'm going golfing with the fellas, whatever. So we can kind of know where each other are and playing around each other. I've already got next Thursday night blocked. I'm like, don't make plans, babe. I love you very much. Thursday's usually date night, but not next week. Hall of Fame game. That's just what I'm doing. All right, we got a lot we got to get to. Obviously, as a pair of big-time pro wrestling fans, yesterday, one of the biggest icons in the Lonzo, I will say, the biggest icon in the history of professional wrestling. There is no one bigger.
Without Hulk Hogan, we would not have wrestling as it is today.
Probably not. The biggest icon in the history of the art form that is known as professional wrestling, Terry Bollea, a.k.a. Hulk Hogan, has passed away, 71 years of age. And listen, Hulk Hogan, the character, Hulk Hogan that we watched in the wrestling ring, was without a doubt the ultimate standard of American idealism. He was an American hero. off of the wrestling screen, Terry Bollea was a very complicated figure. He was a very complicated person who brought a character to life on our television screens on Mondays and Saturdays and Thursdays and sometimes Fridays and occasionally Tuesdays. That was not just larger than life, but like as a wee lad, Hulk Hogan was the guy that we all wanted. Hulk Hogan was the guy we all wanted to strive to grow up and be. You wanted to be the guy who fought for the rights of every man. We all wanted to be a real American when we were kids. And then I think Hulk Hogan taught us a lot of lessons as kids. As the Hulkster, we took a lot from him. When we grew up and, we kind of started to learn about the concept of art and artist. And Terry Bollea was a very complicated person who held some views that were very good for us and some views that were really not good at all. There was also that kind of lesson of maybe recognizing that making action heroes in real life wasn't always the best idea. Like there were a lot of lessons to learn about the very complicated life of one Hulk Hogan, aka Terry Bollea. So we're gonna talk about that. I think Hulk Hogan transcended wrestling into the American pop culture zeitgeist large enough that I think if there is in the history of that industry one guy that you can justify saying we need to talk about Hulk Hogan, it's Hulk Hogan. Like that's the guy. So we're going to talk about the lifetimes and legacy of maybe the largest figure. I'd say definitely the largest figure in the history of that industry throughout the course of the show. I got some thoughts on some surprise pretenders and contenders in college football this year. I'm going to share those with you later. Ryan McGee, friend of the show, who I did talk to yesterday. I got to tell that story too. Ryan McGee, who now owes me another one, put up, and I don't care because it's Friday, we're going to have fun, his definitive power rankings of every mascot in college football. Yeah, we're going to have fun with that. So we got that coming up for you, and we'll get some NFL thoughts as well. It is going to be busy, but it's Friday, so we're going to get weird. He's the great one, Lonzo. I'm Rob Brown, back in studio, 844-326-3663. I swear to you, I will read your text and take your phone calls today. You have my word. Scout's honor. I can't say it if I was a Boy Scout. Scout's honor. I have to do it now. All right? So text, calls, Facebook, stream, comments, whatever you want. You're starring on the show, The Rob Brown Show, live on the Fan Upstate.
For passionate sports talk that's
Morning, Brian, and morning, Kane, morning, Zach. Welcome in. I was at Raw's 15th anniversary. We lifted Kali. I don't remember that.
From the News Talk 90
Really?
WORD Weather Center, here's the Carolina.
I was at,
if you can get Andre, you can get Kali. I mean, he was older at that point, I'm sure. Well, I know for sure he was. I don't remember it, but I don't doubt it.
I was at WrestleMania 30 when he reminded us all that he body slammed Andre the Giant at the Silverdome, brother.
Currently it's 77 degrees.
Hulk Hogan saves Hornswoggle from the Great Khali. 7 years ago? The concept of the Great Khali bullying Hornswoggle is genuinely hilarious. All right, so he hulks up on Khali.
Join us for a free admission outdoor street party featuring live music in Noma Square. Returning this year, Arts After Dark, happening every
Khali
Thursday,
no-selling
and
Hogan's
showcasing
punches,
local
mainly
artists.
because
Partnership
Khali
with
couldn't move.
Metropolitan Arts Council, Piedmont Natural Gas,
Oh,
Downtown
Chuck
Alive,
Mangione
and
died
Noma
too.
Square.
July's been
Thursday
rough.
evenings,
July's been
13th,
rough.
August 29th. Visit GvilleEvents.com for more info.
Tuesday night, I was sitting at the bar at the hotel because I drove over on, Monday night. I was sitting at the bar at the hotel. I drove over on Monday. And so I wasn't going to go out that night. There's a bar at the hotel. I was like, let me go down and get a burger and a beer, and then I'll go to bed. And I was sitting down there, and the bartender and the guy sitting next to me were talking about Malcolm Jamal Warner passing away. And the guy next to me, they got into telling stories, and I was telling, I watched the Cosby Show as a kid. Like that was Cosby Show, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. They were like these family shows that I remember watching with my family. And so I was telling, I watched the Cosby Show and yada yada yada. And I always thought that that his character, that Theo, was great because he was part of the family, loved the family, but also he was young and cool. And I'm like, I want to be like Theo Huxtable when I grow up.
Hey, look at Twitter while you're talking.
And so I was telling this guy like this story and how much I was a fan growing up and whatever. And he says to me, he's like, oh, check this out. And he opens his phone up and he shows me this guy was friends with Malcolm Jamal Warner in real life. He was like a traveling comedian. I guess they had done some shows together or something. And he's like, I'm going to miss this dude. He goes, I want you to know everything you thought about him and Theo Huxtable, that's who he was in real life. He was like the nicest, coolest guy.
60% off and free
and also, that's super dope. I would spend unnecessary amounts of money.
Yeah, me too. Although it wouldn't fit my head. Still, it would be. That's awesome.
Listen on your phone. Download the
Trey
Odyssey
Parker
app
says he
and
talked
search
with
the
Mike
fan.
Judge many years ago about a crossover episode where Beavis and Butthead have to babysit Cartman. I would like to see that.
Yes, sir. Also, August 5th, King of the Hill is back, and I am jacked. I'm so excited.
You just want to see grown-up Bobby.
Upstate.
So we spent the last 3 days at ACC Media Days. We spent 4 days last week at SEC Media Days. And I've got a couple of takeaways. I got a couple of things I'm interested in. I am going to start with this one. Yesterday, I thought that, I really thought that it was going to be kind of an interesting, I thought it was going to be kind of an interesting contrast between Bill Belichick and Dabo Swinney. Because over the last couple of years, obviously, as we have made jokes that aren't jokes about, the last couple of years we have made jokes that aren't jokes that, ACC Media Days belong to Dabo and the Clemson Tigers. When Dabo and the boys walk in the building on the final day, because it's always the final day, they are the biggest brand in the game right now. Whenever they walk in the final day, even if you are not paying attention, you know when they walked in, because it becomes a circus wherever Dabo and the boys go. And yesterday was no different, but it wasn't quite as animated as it has been in years before. There were still a bunch of people, and at one point during the end of our show, towards the end of our show, we were sitting there in the final couple of segments, I think probably about 9:50, right around the time we started What the X is Going On. And friend of the show, Susan, photographer Susan, who has been a character on the show for a very long time. Susan walks over. She comes every year. She does some contract work for Clemson, takes all the pictures you see from ACC Media Days about the Tigers. Most of them come from Susan. So Susan walks over to the table, and she kind of points over against the far wall, and there is a gaggle of people all kind of circled around. On the back wall of the hotel, directly across, if you were watching the stream from where we were sitting, on the wall that we were facing, the ACC puts up 3 big cloth banners. Now, they're to cover, because there's, in that hotel lobby, there's businesses over there, right? And so they're to cover up those businesses because they're not open while media days are taking place. But they also provide an excellent backdrop for television. They're big, they're white, so you can white balance your camera. They have ACC logo, team logos on them, whatever. So they're great for television backdrops. And she points over, and there is a big gaggle of people that are all gathered around someone who is being interviewed on television. You could tell because the lights were very bright, whatever. And she goes, "Who is that over there?" And I went, I assume it's Dabo Swinney. It's always Dabo Swinney. If Dabo stops to do an interview with anybody anywhere, you get crushed, right? Last year we did get Dabo at ACC Media Days on the show, and when we were interviewing Dabo Swinney, there were 30 people, 40 people standing around our table listening, sticking out tape recorders, taking quotes from Dabo and all that. I mean it when I tell you. I probably had more people surrounding my table when I interviewed Dabo last year at ACC Media Days than I've ever had come out for a live remote. Like, it was insane. So and I just assumed it was Dabo. But as the interview ended and they kind of started to break up, it turned out it was Hoodie. It was Hoodie that was getting the attention. Now, I'm not saying Dabo also had plenty of attention. I would say it was honestly about 50-50. I don't think either one of them got more or less than the other. So the question mark that I had was, what is Bill Belichick going to be at the press conference? What version of Bill are we going to get at the presser? I'm going to play a couple of clips that I pulled throughout the course of it, but I'll give you the first 45 seconds or so of Bill. This is, remember, Bill's done a lot of talking. He's been on TV shows. He's been interviewed on SportsCenter. This is like the first real official suit and tie representing the university at a conference event. This is, I think, really the first big-time official moment that Bill Belichick has represented North Carolina at a big-time sponsored event. Now, you know what Dabo sounds like at these. He's been doing them for years. You've heard it over and over. Dabo comes out. He's very personable. He's very likely. He's not likable. He's not overly enthusiastic, but he's not boring either. And when he gets on something that he really is enthusiastic about, he stays on that. Cole and I were talking. We were both in the Dabo Swinney press conference. Actually, me, Cole, and Diesel, all three were. And you got about 20 minutes with the coaches, and then you got about 10 minutes with each player for the room to ask questions, which I will say, one thing I did not love is that when the teams came to the podium in the group, in the press pool setting, they, as a team, one coach, three players, you got 30 minutes tops. And hard out at 30 minutes. No matter where you were, it was a hard out. So you ended up with about, depending on the coach, like 10 to 12 minutes with the head coach, and then you got about 4 to 5 minutes with each player because it was a hard out at half an hour. Rhett Lashley went on for like 17 minutes, but then you ended up getting like one question to the three players. But also, Rhett Lashley provided us with a ton of sound bites, right? The hoodie, I think the hoodie went on for somewhere in the neighborhood of about 13 minutes, so pretty good. Here is how Belichick started his press conference yesterday. Let me switch my soundboard back because we've been out of the studio for a couple of days and I have not been on top of it. Here you go. Here's the hoodie to open up pressers.
Well, appreciate everybody coming out today. It's really exciting for me to be here. Start with Chancellor Roberts. He's made such a huge difference in the opportunity to come to North Carolina. Been very supportive. Has given us a great opportunity at a school that's already a great school with a great brand, and obviously Bubba Cunningham, Steve Newmark, those guys have been great. Our alumni, Mike Lombardi and I we're into the double figures on the donor events and alumni events, things like that, and I'd say just the sport's been overwhelmingly tremendous. Not only supportive, but engaged and, very excited. We want to match that excitement and put that on the field. So, Mike and I have worked together for a long time, going all the way back to the start of Cleveland. Mike in the general manager role, myself in the head coaching role. And, we've had a lot of experience in dealing with kind of what the college football landscape is now, similar, not the same, but similar in terms of, NIL, revenue sharing, free agency, if you will, and recruiting, post-draft type recruiting as opposed to drafting.
So that's the first minute 20, and I will say, first off, it's pretty much what I expected.
Well, I'm a little disappointed because Belichick, I would think, would be a little more savvy on the mic. He said at least 35 times, and it's like, okay, I've seen him on TV, I've seen him do press conferences for the NFL. Maybe that's why he was so staccato. So he said so way too many times.
I don't have a.
Don't do it because
No, I know. Trust me. I want you all to know, and this is not a joke. I literally have sticky notes around me in the battle station here that say, "Slow down. Don't say, don't lean on your crutches, because I think everybody.
Crutch words are a thing, and
Crutch words are a thing.
People probably don't think about it. You have to think about it when you're on the air. Stop doing those things that when you lose your thought.
Again, I have sticky notes around. I have like 4 sticky notes around me that are constant reminders not to. So I don't beat anybody up for public speaking because it's not easy. It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. It's not easy. There are times I get out ahead of my skis as somebody who has been public speaking for 18 years. There are times I get out ahead of my skis and I start to lean on that, and I gotta crack it. So I'm not gonna beat up on Bill for that.
I don't think he was nervous though.
No, I don't think anything makes Bill nervous. I think we're past that. I think Bill is the type of guy, because ordinarily a filler word in is a moment that your brain tells your mouth, hang on, let me catch up. Because most of us speak faster than we think. It's an easy thing to have happen. We get out ahead of ourselves. And especially if you're somebody like me who tends to talk really fast and then you can really outpace the noggin. And if you outpace the noggin, the brain will tell the mouth to shut up and catch up. Like, let me catch up so we can stay on the same page. And I think that's not the case with Bill. I think Bill, and we had this conversation yesterday on the show, I think that Bill Belichick, one of the philosophies he has is to not give any information that he is not obligated to give to you, and to try his best not to give any information, even if he is obligated to give it to you. I think Bill, and we'll listen to a few more cuts from his press conference later in the show, but I think that Bill's the type of guy who slows himself down so that he doesn't accidentally say something that he is ultimately going to give something away or get himself in trouble or whatever. And I think that is why you get kind of that slow, career-wise, by the way, not just UNC Bill, not just Chapel Bill, just career-wise, and I get it. But what I thought was very interesting was that the last thing that Lonzo and I debated about Bill Belichick yesterday, which is, will his NFL experience translate to success at the college level? Because there are things that are going to be similar. Handling people who are making money doing what they are doing, playing football, sure. The ability to scout, that's common across all of football. The ability to make sure that when you scout, you're getting guys that aren't just good football players, but fit your team, your philosophy, the position, the role you need them in. That is the same. There are a lot of things that are similar. Now, to me, I also think that there are things that are different. Dealing with a 24, 25, 26-year-old guy who's been in the league a year or two, and when the team has more protections from the players about them just saying, bleep this, I'm out, and leaving, is different than it is at the college level, where, as I pointed out yesterday, these kids basically go, yeah, this sucks. When's the portal window open? And are gone. And there's no contract locking them in place. Now, this is why I've also said, when it comes to private third-party NIL deals, I'd probably start locking kids in on contracts. We will continue to pay you for your name, image, and likeness. However, you are contractually obligated to do this many appearances, make this many phone calls, sign this many autographs, make these many pictures, and stay here for 2 years. You are contractually obligated. And again, just like I said when the transfer portal came in, just like I said when NIL started, these kids have this adult opportunity, but with that adult opportunity comes adult obligations, responsibility, and consequences. So there are some differences that Bill will have to handle. I just found it interesting that what ended up being the biggest discussion between Lonzo and I, which is how much of Bill's NFL experience will help and hurt him downshifting to the college level, was literally the first thing he addressed when he got on the mic. He said, I want to thank Bubba Cunningham, and I want to thank all these people, thank Mike Lombardi, yada, yada, yada. And then he turned around and said, Mike and I, we've done this before. We started doing it in Cleveland. We've been together a long time. These are all the traits that we have had to exhibit in the NFL, and it's the same here. And he did acknowledge it's different, but it's the same. I just thought it was very interesting that the biggest debate that Zoe and I have had about Bill Belichick so far was also the most important thing, the highlight, the first thing Hoodie brought to the podium yesterday. All right, when we come back, speaking of college football, yesterday, Lonzo's worst nightmare. Sports and politics didn't intersect. They collided at full speed as President Donald Trump issued an executive order pertaining to all of college sports. So let's take a look at that and what the impact of that executive order might be next on The Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. I like that Sports Center is doing an ACC Media Day story, and it's just flashing back and forth between Dabo and Hoodie. Dabo and Hoodie.
That's 844-326-3663. The Fan. Upstate.
Well, they finally got another character.
Yeah, that's it. I'm going to talk about Norvell, too. I've never...
And is currently on the physically unable to perform list. That opens up the shot for Jatavion Sanders, the fourth-round pick out of Texas, to make an impact. Justin Verlander finally got his first win of the season as the Giants beat the Braves 9-3 in Atlanta on Wednesday. He struck out 3 and allowed 1 hit over 5 innings.
You move your mic way over there. I guess they could still...
Ending the longest streak of
nighttime hours, and a scan of the area shows all of that has been cleared out and things are rolling smoothly on major corridors. From the News Talk 98.9 WORD Traffic Center, I'm Bill Brooks on the Fan Upstate.
Lowe's knows big savings make a big difference, especially when you're shopping for appliances. Hurry in to get up to 30% off select major appliances. Plus, My Lowe's Rewards members get free delivery, free haul away, free installation and parts on purchases of $2,500 or more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 7/30. Selection varies by location. While supplies last. Price, delivery time, and vehicle availability may vary based on order size and location. Exclusions apply. See Lowes.com/delivery for more details.
Now is the perfect time.
I don't know why I
to
take the loop off the thing, but I hope you enjoyed seeing the studio. There's a loop button, and the afternoon people take the loop off, I think.
Global Campus
So.
offers online and hybrid courses. Plus, you can earn up to 90 credits toward a bachelor's for prior learning and work experience.
But since I'm back, we might as well just stay here. Why not?
Towards the master's.
I realize that the commercials were in there. That's not good. Someone had forgot to put the loop on.
Yeah, that was me.
Well, it's not your fault. It's
Gotta click the button.
It's the. Does that reset every day? I blamed the afternoon.
You gotta click loop every time you start a new session.
Well, now I know. San Diego Comic-Con's going on right now. That's where all that stuff is coming from. It started yesterday. Vox Machina has announced that they're going to do season 5. So we're not just getting the upcoming season, but we're also getting season 5. There are all kinds of announcements. I didn't think there would be any. Because I was looking at the lineup, it's like, okay, I don't know. Do want to watch the Peacemaker panel when it comes out, though. That should be interesting. Trying to decide, am I done with movies till like September? I don't know. I might go see Naked Gun.
I'm 100% going to see Naked Gun. I really hope it's good.
See, that's why I'm not, I don't know.
I just like, You have to make it Leslie Nielsen style, but obviously he and Liam Neeson are very different. But I think if anybody can do Leslie Nielsen style comedy, it's Liam Neeson. So last night, the news broke that Donald Trump, President of the United States, has issued an executive order pertaining to college sports as a whole. The executive order has a few points in it, and keep in mind that, and I do think that this is important, an executive order is not a law. An executive order does not create nor enforce laws. An executive order effectively dictates to the powers inside of the executive branch of the government, the president's executive branch of the office of the government. It dictates how they will act under the current president's philosophy, agenda, et cetera, et cetera. It does not dictate to any other branch of government how they must operate. Now, ordinarily, when a president has his party in control of Congress and therefore two of the three branches, ordinarily an executive order is usually translated over into Congress and they will legislate based on the agenda of the president of the United States. And that is true whether Democrats or Republicans hold the House, the Senate, and the executive office, as Donald Trump and the Republicans do right now. So he issues an executive order that had a few talking points to it. In plain English, as I was able to, because I spent some time reading this last night, kind of walking through different opinions on it, putting my own critical thinking down to figure out what this ultimately, A, says, and B, does, and C, maybe does or does not have the power to actually be enforced across the landscape of college sports. Here are what I think are the biggest talking points or the biggest points of emphasis issued in the executive order. Number one, Donald Trump wants to, according to the EO, preserve and expand women's and non-revenue sports. The executive order says that schools with over $125 million in athletic revenue must increase scholarship spots for non-revenue sports. Schools with over $50 million in athletic revenue must at least maintain current levels. And schools with less than $50 million should not reduce such support disproportionately. Cool. Because one of the concerns over the years has been with the ever-shifting financial requirements, obligations, necessities, whatever you want to call them, to college football and to college basketball, the concern has, I think, justifiably been, I've expressed it on the show many times, about non-revenue sports, about Olympic sports. One of the reasons that the United States has been a dominant power at the Olympics over and over is because our Olympic athletes are able to go through our collegiate system and they are able to train and compete at the highest possible level in a structured, organized way that is funded, provided by big-time universities that gets them in Olympic shape. If we don't have that, if Olympic sports, if non-revenue sports, if Olympic sports start to go away, so will our dominance at the Olympics, because only the best of the best and those who are able to afford it are going to be able to train at the highest levels. This is an argument that's been going on in the soccer world for many, many years. Soccer is a sport around the world that is so beloved because anybody can play it. But in the system we have cultivated here in these United States, the best training only goes to those who have. Those who can pay to play travel ball and go to academies and all that. Some MLS teams over the years have tried to prop up academies where they will go and they will find the best soccer talent from smaller, from little leagues, from middle schools, whatever, and train them within the academy to get them ready to go play MLS ball. But because of the fact that, A, it's expensive, B, not a lot of MLS teams have like millions of extra dollars to throw into an academy that does not make money. It is a money losing endeavor at the core. The hope is you're going to develop players that go into your MLS team and become superstars, and down the line, you've invested in their growth. They will repay you by being superstars who sell jerseys and tickets and whatnot, but most of them aren't. So at cost, at upfront, it's a money-losing endeavor. One of the other things in this EO is that colleges are to, or at least the overwhelming number of big-time colleges are to coordinate with Olympic and Paralympic bodies. That is kind of in that same vein in order to protect the role of college athletics in growing Olympic athletes. Relevant organizations from both sides will have to be in touch. And Donald Trump has effectively said the executive branch will serve as the facilitator of those conversations. We will make sure that we have people in place that are the either liaison or moderator or negotiator or whatever to go between those two parties. I think that's great. I think that's assuming that it is run in good faith by all three entities, by the colleges, by the Olympic Committee, and by the executive branch. I think that's fantastic. I want to I love Olympic sports. I want the U.S. to continue to be an Olympic powerhouse. But in order for that to happen, those conversations have to happen so that colleges, probably assisted by the federal government at some level, will continue to invest in and, more importantly, supply resources for Olympic athletes at the collegiate level. That's why we've been the dominant factor. That's why it needs to continue, in my opinion. If you don't think that's a worthy financial investment, that's on you. That's why we have a government that operates with three branches so that everybody throws their opinions in. We discuss, we debate, we legislate, we challenge via the court of law, and then we end up where we end up. One of the other major ones, and I think this one is one that I kind of went, okay, sure, like that's already a thing. Universities or outside boosters cannot pay athletes to recruit or keep them, but athletes can still receive, quote, fair market value endorsement deals in NIL. That's already a thing. That's already the rules. Now, what this does open the door to is for the executive branch to get involved. And again, we do not know the levels at which they will or will not. But this does allow the executive branch to get involved in the monitoring of and approval or disapproval of those third-party NIL deals. And to make sure that, again, you can't do pay-to-play, you can do third-party. Here's the only concern that I have. And this is not new to this executive order. I had the same concern when the College Sports Commission got propped up. My question was, who gets to determine whether a deal is a fair market value, right? Like, who gets to determine that? I've used the example before. If sitting up in Anderson, South Carolina, there's an old 1972 Corvette Stingray, that's Rob Brown's dream car, and it's an old rusted bucket of bolts, and I look up and I go, that car's worth $15,000 for me. I'm going to put $20,000 of work into it. That's going to be $35,000 of investment, but when it's done, it's going to be, to me, a priceless artifact. And somebody else looks at that car and they go, I'm not giving you $3,000 for that car. It's a pile of crap. What's the market value of that car? $15,000. Granted, it is an exception to the market, but it is in the market, right? So I don't understand. I didn't when the CSC gets involved, and I do not understand why anybody from the executive branch would have the right to step in and say, we don't think that's a fair market value. And now, the big problem I have with it, and this is not new because it is the executive branch of the federal government, because it's Donald Trump, because it's whatever. I said the exact same thing when the CSC was in charge. My big concern about that is that by having the power to say, no, we don't think that deal's okay, so cancel it, that allows that to become a tool of punishment, right? If I don't like what a school is doing, and we know this isn't a political hot take, but Donald Trump has butted heads with numerous colleges and universities over the last couple of years, specifically since he came back into power as the president earlier this year. Donald Trump has already gotten into battles with a number of universities, specifically like Ivy League and high-level universities, not really with like big-time public universities yet, but he has gotten into battles with them, and he has attempted to, successfully or not can be debated, but he has attempted to utilize the powers of the executive office to bend universities more towards his policies, right? We talk about what they are. He has ordered schools to not engage in DEI initiatives over the years. And the schools that said, yeah, no, we're going to do that. We're a private school. Or even if we're not a private school, we're going to do that. Donald Trump has utilized the power of the executive office to try to mandate them to not do that anymore. So, again, I'm not taking a stance on that, good or bad, either way. I'm just saying the powers of the executive office have already been used to try to bend a college or university into following his agenda. The question mark is, if the executive branch of the government ends up with someone who gets to decide which NIL deals are good and are not good, that can become a form of punishment. If XYZ State University says we are not going to follow the initiatives of Donald Trump's agenda, if the executive order starts coming down and they start going, yeah, no, none of your NIL deals are fair market value, so you can't do any of them. Well, that college is going to have a hard time getting big NIL players in. So I do have question marks about that. And just so we're clear, I said that about the CSC. This isn't a Donald Trump thing. Although Donald Trump has added himself into that same conversation, this is the same take I had when the CSC
fans
had
know
that.
what CSC is?
The College Sports Commission.
Okay.
If you don't know what the CSC is, it is now the NCAA's enforcement and disciplinary arm when it comes to everything happening in the world of college football. And you not knowing what it is doesn't mean it's not the most important thing in football right now.
I don't want to, I told myself when I came in today, I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. It's Friday, so I'm not going to fight. I will just ask this, though. You want regulation. Do you want specific regulation? Or, this is kind of regulation, isn't it?
It is regulation.
Yeah, that's what you've pointed out, and I've pointed out that it needs regulation. Well, now it's getting some.
But
is this not the regulation you wanted?
No, it's not.
What regulation did you want?
What I want is, as a number of colleges have said, as a number of coaches and ADs have said over the last 2 weeks of media days, what I want is, at its base, a national standard applied across all 50 states that all colleges and universities must be held to. I've also said that might be impossible, honestly. That's why I have said an antitrust exemption to create the NCAA in a form like the NFL is the only way out of this.
It's nearly 7 a.m. Some people are not awake. Break this down to the most simple way to explain what this executive order does.
I'll tell you what, I do think this is important enough to circle back around to. It is obviously going to be an item on the water cooler cheat sheet, so we'll discuss it kind of briefly. And then in the next hour of the show, let's come back to this, because I do think this is massively important. I think it is important in terms of the future of college sports. I also think this is one of those times where the Venn diagram circles of sports and politics, I've told you, we try to avoid mapping them, but sometimes they map. Sometimes they overlap. In this case, the Venn diagram's a circle now. This is college and sports intersecting at its most violent. So I do think this is an important conversation to have. I'll give you my thoughts. The phone lines and the text line are open for you to give your input, disagree with me, agree with me, whatever you want to do at 844-326-3663. Water cooler cheat sheet up next. We'll come back to this EO after that. College football's biggest pretenders and contenders to end the next hour. All of that comes after a guy who would win every national championship if there was a national championship for reading sports flashes. There should be.
I can't live up to those expectations, but I'll try. Professional wrestling legend Hulk Hogan passed away yesterday at 71 years of age. Hogan, whose real name was Terry Bollea, was one of pop culture's most recognizable figures and a mainstay in the wrestling world for decades. Hogan headlined the first WrestleMania in 1985, and the legend grew with WrestleMania 3 when he body slammed the 520-pound Andre the Giant. Legendary Kansas head coach, basketball coach Bill Self was hospitalized with unknown but serious symptoms and had 2 stents inserted, according to sources. Self is expected to make a full recovery. First major trade in MLB leading up to next Thursday's trade deadline is in, as the Mariners acquired slugger and first baseman Josh Naylor from the Diamondbacks in return for 2 pitching prospects. The 28-year-old was one of the lowest strikeout rates in the league. He has one, was one, and is hitting .292 with 11 home runs, 59 RBIs, and only 49 strikeouts. did not move that. finishes like the day after New Year's or something. I can't remember, but they're doing it in little spurts of like 3 or 4 episodes. And I still have a theory that in the end, you'll just see the kids back still playing Dungeons and Dragons, and all the seasons were just played on the Dungeons and Dragons board. It's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, we'll see.
Because that would make a lot of people mad. But that's how Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
I mean, it can get that intricate where you are fleshing out characters and all that kind of stuff. So
I will. I'll probably go back. The point is here, though, the jersey's grown me a lot, and as a I guess a Fever fan from a distance. Like, I'm a Caitlin Clark fan, so therefore I like the Fever. As a Fever fan from a distance, I didn't love them when they dropped, but I saw them in action yesterday. I'm like, all right, that's actually pretty dope. I might be putting a little dollar bills y'all towards that. I will say, in the world of jerseys, I hate the jersey drop that the Saints did last week. If you haven't seen it, we released the alternate black helmets with the old Saints gold fleur-de-lis and the stripe down the middle, which is great. But then they dropped gold jerseys that go with it. And I'm not anti-gold jersey, except the problem is it's like a khaki-colored gold or a gold-colored khaki. And the gold on the jersey is a different gold on the helmet, and that drives me up a friggin' wall.
Wow.
I despise it.
Because it's not, okay, at least it's not
They don't match.
At least it's not Green Bay.
They don't match.
This is not Green Bay, but I still like the Green Bay.
Yeah,
helmet.
like I'm like or whatever on the Green Bay helmets. Like, a lot of people are losing their mind over them. It's just not my taste. But I don't hate. Like, I'm not like, oh, those are bad. The Saints jerseys with the helmets are bad. Just either match the helmet to the jersey or the jersey to the helmet. But they're gonna look silly with
way,
different golds on the helmet and the jersey.
I dig the Cleveland Browns helmet. I do.
The Browns helmet's kind of sick.
Yeah,
It's growing on me too.
Maybe it's because it's such a contrast to what their normal helmet is that you're like, oh, why haven't they done this?
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is 7:04 in the morning. You have just over 55 minutes until you got to get your behind in the office and pretend like you give a damn about your job for the last few hours of the work week. Also knowing that this is the last week of the year with no football. This is the last weekend that we go into and come out of going no football.
I've seen it pointed out a bunch of times yesterday was the last Thursday without football till February.
Yeah, like, I'm sorry. I said yeah.
I don't think that's true, though, because they stop at least until November or December. It's still a long time.
It's a long time. And so this is the last.
Well, college football, I think, it ends at the end of November. So I don't think, there are some Thursday. They have stretched the Thursday games out further than what they used to.
They have. This is all that matters is this is the last week that there's no football on. We got Hall of Fame game on Thursday, and we are football until friggin' February. As the kids say. Hell yeah, brother. All right. 55 minutes until you got to get to the office. Stop caring. Stop pretending like you care about your job. All right. You're going to take your breaks. You're going to talk sports. You're going to extend your break today because let's be real, you deserve it. And when you do that, you're going to talk about sports. You got to know what's going on in the world of sports. If you got to know what's going on in the world of sports, ladies and gentlemen, you need this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar? The almanac of the absurd? And the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying, even before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the Water Cooler Cheat Sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is the Water Cooler Cheat Sheet, the top 3 sports stories you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports. When you do, this is what you will be talking about. Let us dive right in with item number 1. We talked going into SEC Media Days about the fact that this year's Media Days were the first Media Days dating back to 2020 that actually felt kind of normal, kind of felt like football was the focus. In 2020, we had the concept of the pandemic. Of course, most media days were canceled that year. They were kind of exclusively held in an online Zoom capacity, but the conversation was about the pandemic. How are we going to handle it? How are teams going to handle it? How are conferences going to handle it, et cetera, et cetera? In 2021, we were talking about the transfer portal incoming, what that was going to mean in 2022 and 23. It was all about conference expansion and teams that are going to be moving and changing in this conference and that conference, and how are they going to thrive, survive. In 2024, it was all of that plus the big name teams that had conference realigned. What is Oregon going to look like like in the Big Ten, Texas and Oklahoma in this Southeastern Conference, et cetera, et cetera. All those teams have been in, have played a season. It felt like this year we were going to talk exclusively about football, and we did. Until yesterday, when Sports Business Journal, along with a handful of other outlets, revealed that there is more conference realignment discussion ongoing. The NCAA settled its lawsuits with Clemson and Florida State a few weeks ago, and they negotiated to a compromise. Florida State and Clemson would stay in the league for now because the exit fee is still very, very high, well north of $120 million. But that exit fee would decrease annually to its low of around $70 million in 2031. And the belief was, at least for me, the belief was this accomplished the goal for both parties. Florida State and Clemson, yeah, they may have to wait a few more years before they conference realign, but when they do conference realign, if they pay the exit fee, or wink, wink, somebody pays it for them, they would take their television rights with them. If they can't take their TV rights with them, as they could not under the old grant of rights agreement, they were not going anywhere. What was the point? Who would pay them to not broadcast their games? On the flip side, the ACC bought themselves probably 6 years to figure out what the hell are we going to do? When Clemson, when Florida State, when Miami, and I have said a number of times, I believe, when North Carolina and Duke decide it is time to head to one of the two mega conferences, can the ACC remain a viable conference? Could they be a stalwart of the EEC, the everybody else conference? I've said a number of times, I think the Big 12 was a little more proactive in figuring out the survivability and set themselves up to kind of be the centerpiece of what would ultimately become the EEC. Well, now we have new news, because if the Sports Business Journal, along with the multiple other outlets that have reported it, are correct, apparently North Carolina, come on and raise up. That's right, that one, the UNC Tar Heels, the Chapel Bills. Apparently, they have already begun the discussion of moving out of the ACC and have already set their target of landing within the Southeastern Conference. According to Sports Business Journal, under Chancellor Lee Roberts and incoming AD Steve Newmark, who will replace Bubba Cunningham in the coming months, the Tar Heels are apparently leading the pack in discussions to move out of the ACC, and their preferred destination is the Southeastern Conference. Will the SEC have them? The answer to me is probably yes. Probably yes, because they've got the brand in football. If not the success, they've got the brand. And if not only because of Bill Belichick, this team has trended upwards. Yeah, they took a big step back last year under Mac Brown, but what they do, they fired Mac Brown, and they went and they got the biggest name in football coaching history to come to Chapel Hill. Number two, we all know the SEC has had an increased focus on basketball the last couple of years. I made the point last year that the biggest issue the ACC had nothing to do with football and everything to do with the fact that, even if it's just on paper, the Southeastern Conference passed the ACC in basketball this past year. The ACC probably had one or two better teams at the very top, but overall, the SEC was a better basketball conference. That would make sense for North Carolina to move over and become a powerhouse, if they can, in the SEC, with basketball being the primary and football being secondary. So we're going to keep an eye on this, because this comes on the heels of the settlement between Clemson and Florida State, which I said puts a timeline on the exit. North Carolina now knows whether it is 2025, 6, 7, 8, 9, 2030, or 31. They know exactly what the exit fee needs to be. They know exactly how much they have to pay or have paid on their behalf. So the question mark is, would the SEC be willing to pay the exit fee? And more importantly, if North Carolina started these discussions, it is more than likely that the other schools are having them too, which means the ACC, which this was not a discussion during ACC media days. The ACC is now going to have to start figuring out sooner rather than later. I said they bought themselves 6 years, but they needed to be talking now. This might accelerate that. We'll talk more about that later on the show. Let's get to item number 2. the little handle on the thing gets stuck sometimes, Like sometimes you got to wiggle it a little bit. If you flip it backwards instead of forward sometimes, the water doesn't start. Like, it just takes a minute.
I had to put on a new thing, and it was heavy. And
I'm glad you put on the new thing.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to.
Good luck with the new thing.
Thank you.
71 years old, Hulk Hogan passes away yesterday. Hulkster had been dealing with some health issues the last couple of months. Yesterday, authorities responded to a call at his home about a cardiac arrest. Hogan was pronounced dead at a hospital hours later. No signs of foul play or suspicious activity, according to Clearwater, Florida police. WWE would post a note on X later acknowledging the passing of Hulkamania, brother. We're going to talk about Hulk and his legacy later on in the show, so we'll keep it very brief here. Suffice to say, Hulk Hogan is the biggest name in the history of professional wrestling. As Lonzo notated earlier in the show, I think correctly and accurately, without Hulk Hogan, we probably don't have professional wrestling, at least the way and the size and the grandeur that we have it now. But I think it is also fair to say that Hulk Hogan is a complicated character. Hulk Hogan was Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was an American hero. Hulk Hogan was the guy who said, "Say your prayers, take your vegetables, take your vitamins." He probably would have said that too. It's just less catchy than "take your vitamins." Say your prayers, take your vitamins, be a real American, stand up for the rights of every man, etc., etc., etc. He was the American that I think those of us that watched him as a kid wanted to strive to be like. Hulk Hogan was the character that was American idealism and exceptionalism at its finest. He was always the good guy till he wasn't, in the greatest heel turn in the history of the industry as well. But until he wasn't, Hulk Hogan was always the guy that you grew up wanting to be like. On the flip side, Terry Bollea, the man, the actor who portrayed Hulk Hogan, a very complicated character. A very complicated character dating back to when he was prime Hulk Hogan. One of those things that we didn't really learn a lot about that until way later, after the prime of Hulkamania running wild on you, brother, was past its prime. We learned a lot about why Hulkamania was as big as it was. And a lot of that was Terry Bollea not being necessarily a great guy behind the scenes. And then we learned more about Terry Bollea later in life that caused it to sometimes to be difficult to separate artist from art. We've had that conversation many times. Where do you draw the line of separating art from artist? Enjoying the characters portrayed by an actor, as he was, and a character that Hulk Hogan was, while also trying to rationalize and reflect on who that person was in their real life, a very complicated figure. And we're going to talk about that in a full segment a little bit later on in the show. So let's get to item number 3. This we are going to have a little bit more conversation about coming up in the very next segment of the show. President Donald Trump issued an executive order yesterday evening pertaining to college athletics, directed members of his cabinet to develop a plan in the next 30 days aimed at, according to the EO, the goal of preserving college sports opportunities and preventing college athletes from becoming professionals, along with a handful of other objectives. Trump's order sets out specific guidelines for preserving athletic scholarships based on an athletic department's annual revenue. It also declares that schools should not permit athletes to accept third-party pay-for-play payments. They already can't under the CSC and NCAA rules. And again, executive orders do not create, establish, or enforce laws. All they do is dictate the policy of the branches and authorities that are held under the executive office of the United States of America. One of the controversial issues, the order also states that Secretary of Education Linda McMahon should use future federal funding decisions, amongst other tools, to force schools to abide by the administration's policies. Again, the EO does not set law or create it or enforce it. So these are not policies that are congressionally created, crafted, drafted, discussed, debated, and passed laws. They are policies within the Department of the Executive, the executive office of the federal government of the United States. However, we also know that when a party, holds both branches, the executive office and the legislative branch of the government, Congress, as the Republicans do right now, then it is not uncommon for the president to issue an EO advising, pushing his own policy, and for those executive orders to be adopted and crafted into laws by the legislative branch of the government. And then it is up to in a system of checks and balances in an ideal world, it is up to the judicial branch to then evaluate those laws to determine which are constitutional, which are allowed to go into place, and which are not. And it is supposed to be a three-way dance between the three branches of government. So this is something that right now is Donald Trump telling the executive branch of government, this is how we will act. These are the policies we will follow when it comes to our dealings with college sports, with colleges and universities. Where will this go from here? What is next? Is this something that Congress will pick up and will enshrine some of these executive orders, policies into actual codified law in the United States? Is it something that Congress will say, we're just going to let the president handle this one? Is it going to be something that the NCAA says, we love all of this, thank you, President Trump? Will they push back against certain issues within it? We know that Congress has been petitioned by Charlie Baker and the NCAA to act, to do something. Is this the first step in that path? When we come back here in just a minute, we will talk about this because I think it is a worthy discussion. We have pointed out, we do not, we actively try to avoid places where the Venn diagram of sports and politics kind of loosely overlap. This is not the Venn diagram of politics and sports loosely overlapping. This is them colliding at NASCAR speeds into each other. The Venn diagram is no longer sports and politics. This makes it a circle. We have to talk about this. So I'm going to give you my thoughts. I will give you my opinions on what all of this means, and I want yours. This is a dialogue now. This is a discussion now. 844-326-3663 is the number. You can text the show. I'll read them on the air. You can call the show. I'll put you on the air. Got a couple of texts about this story already. We will talk about that. Texter said, Rob, so the Mariners now have the big dumper and nailer. Interesting. They do, and that is hilarious. Texter said the Saints uniforms are Wake Forest out of 10. That's exactly what it is, and I hate it. No disrespect to the Demon Deeks. Back after this, talk about the Trump EO next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Yo. Somebody said yesterday Hulk couldn't even put Ozzy over for 72 hours.
That's messed up.
Oh, the jokes. I saw way darker than that, and I haven't addressed any of them. Yo, Lonzo, I will spend $1 billion on Bob Ross-inspired MLB cards. Yeah, I haven't bought an MLB card in decades, and I will buy every one of the Bob Ross cards.
I thought it was fake, but it is Topps official, so, I mean.
Yeah, that's from the Topps X account.
It's like, okay, why does that mix? I don't know, but I, as a fan of Bob Ross also.
All right, you guys stay right there. We will be back in uno momento. Last night, Donald Trump, the president of the United States of America, issued an executive order pertaining to college sports, just in general, college sports. It was signed as an EO last night. Now, again, very quickly, I do not pretend to be an expert on anything, but I know a little about a lot. Not a lot about a little, but I know a little about a lot. The concept of an executive order, it does not enshrine or codify anything into law. That can only be done by Congress. What it does do is it is a directive from the President of the United States, whoever that may be at the time that an EO is signed. It is a directive to all authority, all power under the executive branch. So all of the departments within the cabinet of the president, it is a directive to them. This is the way that we will act and treat whatever the EO is about. Doesn't matter what it is. This is how the executive branch will act under the policy of the President of the United States. It does not create, codify, enshrine anything into law. However, as we have talked about, when a party holds the two branches of the government that are responsible for creating and enforcing law, that is the legislative branch, Congress, and the executive branch, the presidency, ordinarily, those two things go hand in hand. The president may issue an executive order and say this is how the executive branch will act. Then Congress, if supportive of the president, may take those policies, craft laws, and pass them that are in line with those policies. That is when the third branch of government, the judicial branch, steps in, acts as the checks and balance, and says, okay, yes, you own the branch that creates the law, and you own the branch that enforces the law, but you do not own the branch that says this law is or is not constitutional. We do not agree. These parts are fine. These parts are not fine. You have to cut those out. That is how the government is set up to work. So, with that being said, the executive order has a couple of aspects to it. I want to run over them very quickly. We'll circle back around to explain or at least give opinions on each of those. One of them is to preserve and expand women's and non-revenue sports. It dictates that schools over $125 million in athletic revenue must increase scholarship spots for non-revenue sports, e.g. volleyball, gymnastics, swimming and diving, track and field, etc. Schools with over $50 million must at least maintain current levels of scholarships in those sports, and schools with less than $50 million in annual athletic revenue should not reduce such sports disproportionately. So that is to say, if you're going to trim a bunch of scholarships in order to be able to keep money over in football, if you are going to trim scholarships from Olympics and non-revenue sports, you must trim scholarships from football, basketball as well, right? It's got to be proportionate. Again, directly what that means, I think that's going to be the discussion and debate. Is there numbers to that? Is there a percentage? Does it have to be an equal percentage? If we get rid of 10% of the scholarships from our Olympic, our non-revenue women's sports, you must get rid of 10% of football and basketball scholarships as well. I don't know. We'll find out. The second thing that it does, and we mentioned this one in the last hour, is to protect the role of college athletics in supplying athletes to the U.S. Olympics, right? Our success at the Olympics is directly creditable to the fact that we have a wonderful Olympic sports program across the college sports landscape. This is in order to protect the Olympic sports from being hurt by all of the money going to the revenue sports. I think that's great. Number two, ban third-party pay-for-play payments. Now, again, this doesn't really do anything. These are already against the rules of the College Sports Commission. What it does do is throw the weight of the executive branch behind the CSC. Remember, the executive branch can indeed file lawsuits, as Donald Trump has been doing for a while now. He can file lawsuits through his executive power. This kind of, I think, does give some weight to the CSC, but I can also go ahead and tell you this is going to be challenged in court quite a bit, depending on what they consider third-party pay-for-play. It does say specifically that athletes can still receive fair market value endorsement deals. One of my big concerns about this EO comes from that. I'll get to that in a minute. The third thing that it does is use federal agencies to defend college sports structure. Simple language, at least the way that I interpreted it, the Attorney General, the FTC, the DOE, Department of Education, and the Department of Health and Human Services must develop enforcement and litigation strategies, potentially using Title IX funding decisions or antitrust policy decisions to support the order's objectives within the next 30 days, effectively saying that the executive branch will use the powers held by the different members of Trump's cabinet to keep the college sports structure looking the way it is. Again, there is only one of these that jumped off the page at me as this is going to be a thing, which is Donald Trump did put in this executive order that the Department of Education chairperson, Linda McMahon, has the right to utilize federal funding for colleges to force colleges to maintain a structure that the executive branch wants to see maintained. We'll get to that in just a second because there is one more aspect of this, that this one might be, even though it's not necessarily the most compelling one, might be the most important one. The EO clarifies that student athletes are not and are not to be defined as employees. It says that the Department of Labor and the National Labor Relations Board are ordered to issue guidance or rules to define athletes' status to preserve the traditional amateur model. That is to say, these sports, even with revenue sharing in place, which this executive order does not address, the NLRB and the Department of Labor are not to address the employees or the players as employees. And I do believe there is a reason for that. The reason why is once they are defined by the Department of Labor and by the National Labor Relations Board, once they are defined as employees, they would earn the right to compensation and benefits that are legally required to be provided to employees. They would earn the right to certain protections, certain benefits that must be provided by employers of certain sizes and stature. They must be provided those benefits. That obviously would cost colleges and universities a lot of money. By demanding that the NLRB and the Department of Labor, which do both fall under the scope of the powers of the executive branch, by saying that you are not to call them employees, this effectively prevents the athletes from, whether it is in court or just in general, if they get to a CBA down the line, although they would be employees at that point. We'll come to that in a minute. It prevents the players, by not naming them employees, from arguing that they should receive the benefits that you are, as an employer of certain sizes and statures, again, legally required to provide to them. That's all this is. It's a cost prevention mention. So the two things that I think are the most important here. First is that one, is a demand that the members, the authorities under the executive branch are not to allow college sports to be called employees, college athletes to be called employees. That's to prevent them from asking for those benefits. We can get back into that a little while later, but there's not a lot of discussion to that one. That one is going to, I think, down the line, come when we get, to me, inevitably, to laws about antitrust exemptions, for the NCAA to have those antitrust exemptions like the NFL, the MLB, the NHL, MLS, et cetera, et cetera. To me, the big one is the third-party pay-for-play payments. Now, I understand why this is put into the executive order, because it's kind of a big thing. This is the one thing that Rhett Lashley was talking about, accountability. When schools, when certain entities that are working on behalf of, whether known or not to these schools, if they break these rules, they must be held accountable. There must be punishment. There must be discipline. The CSC must have the ability to not just call out a violation of the rules, but to enforce discipline based on it and have the power to back that discipline. Because right now, as we have talked about, states are filing lawsuits, basically saying the CSC can't do to our state institutions what the rules that it has been propped up to enforce are. And in the few cases of some states like Tennessee, they're actually writing laws requiring their schools to do things that are directly opposed to the rules of the CSC. Basically saying, you can say that rule is in place, but the state legally requires the University of Tennessee to do these things that are in opposition to the rules of the CSC. So that's kind of interesting because it does put, to some degree, the weight, the authority, the power of the executive branch behind the CSC to some degree. They have the attorneys. They have the right to file litigation. The executive branch could effectively, on behalf of the CSC, I think, this is my interpretation. I could be wrong about this. If there are any attorneys out there who are better versed in this, 844-326-3663, holler at me. And if you're not an attorney, but you just have a take, an opinion, a thought on this, same number, 844-FANFONE. That is the Hub City Spartanburger text line. Text your take to the show. I'll read them on the air. Call the show, get on the air. We'll talk about it. But as I've talked about, I had one main concern that jumped out at me. We have already seen, this is the intersection of politics and sports. It exists. Sometimes it's just going to have to be a conversation. We have already seen, previous to this, Donald Trump not be happy with a college or university that did not go along with, in fact, outspokenly disagreed and did not bend to the policies that he has issued from the executive powers, from the executive office. And Donald Trump has attempted to, although it's not settled yet, he has attempted to utilize federal funding, pull federal funding from those schools for not following his mandate and his policy. And the schools have said, that's fine, we'll figure it out, and we're going to sue you to see if we can get the courts to say you can't do that. We're not settled on that yet. But if the executive office, and again, this is not a take on because of my political positions one way or the other. I had the exact same talk when the CSC got the authority to say this NIL deal is not fair market value. If the executive office gets the power to say that is not a fair market third-party deal, then that becomes potentially a punishment or a gift if it wants to be used politically. If a school says, we're not going to follow your executive policy on the way we should run the school, and the executive branch then starts saying, okay, that's fine, but also every NIL deal that your football team signed third party, they're all not fair market value, and you can't have any of them. Well, what's going to happen to the players? They're going to go, screw that, I'm out. I'll go somewhere that I can get that. Or quite the opposite. If a school goes, hey, Donald Trump will do whatever you want, then the executive office could theoretically, taking this to its extreme, theoretically say, every NIL deal you want to sign, they're all fair market. We think they're great. Give away as much money as you want to give away. And all of a sudden, that school can get every 5-star in the game because they can do whatever they want. So that's a concern that I have, but that is why I'm interested to see what step is next, which is, I think, Congress deciding if they are going to try to take this executive order and codify it into law and pass it, and whether the judicial branch will push back against it or not. But this is the first element of federal government interaction with the College Sports Commission. Is there more to it down the line? We'll have more discussions about this because I do think it is a massive story in college sports. But when we come back, let's talk about the biggest dark horse contenders and pretenders in the 2025 college football season. That's next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Good morning, Steven. Thank you very much, buddy. I am glad to be back. I will say we had a great time. It is enjoyable. I will also say that the show is easier to me and probably more enjoyable, to be honest with you, to do in studio. I don't have another morning show broadcast that is 4 feet from me that I have to balance, be a loud, obnoxious butthole with be courteous to other people trying to do their work. Although I will say, I went on Wednesday. The ACC held a media reception for us at a bar right around the corner from the hotel where ACC Media Days was taking place. And I went. And the 4 guys that did the morning show from Atlanta on WCNN that were there were at the reception. And so I walked up and introduced myself, and we actually had a pretty good laugh about it. They were really funny about it. They were like, dude, we've been they're on a 4-break clock, so our breaks were not scheduled at the same time. So I got to listen to a lot of their show. They got to listen to a lot of mine. They were very, very funny. They were talking about how they appreciated some of the college football talk we were having on the show. They were super nice guys. In fact, a couple of them are gonna probably start coming on the show every now and then to talk Braves ball, talk college football throughout the season, et cetera. But super, super nice guys. Their morning show on 980 AM out of Atlanta. Enjoyed it. Went up actually sincerely to apologize to them for talking on their show. And I was telling the guy, the kind of moderator of their show, I was like, I got to tell you, I've been doing media days for 4 years now. And the game has always been, will there ever be anybody who is able to get their voice over Rob's on the show? And I want to congratulate you because I'm pretty sure you're the first guy that pulled it off. And he started laughing about that. He's like, that's hilarious because that's what these guys say to me. that I'm always going to end up being the most obnoxious guy in the room, and you're the first guy that they've said, oh, he's on your level.
So you got that going for you.
Which is nice. I took it as a compliment.
Well, at least you found the guy that we all heard getting into our broadcast.
Yeah, hilariously, when I had that conversation with him, and he goes, so what station are you with again? And I said, 97.7 The Fan Upstate in Greenville. And he goes, is that Cole and Diesel show? I was like, or a station? I was like, yeah. How'd you know? And he goes, I'm on their show like 2 times a month. I come on and talk Georgia sports with him. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So he's already a regular guest on their show. And I was like, oh, that's too funny. Which made me realize, like, I think I've heard him on their show before and just didn't put 2 and 2 together. They had dude, this was really funny. So one of the guys on their show was when I pointed out the fact that there's like former athletes in this room that would beat my ass if I run their show. One of the guys on their show was smaller. I don't say smaller. He was like probably 5'10", 5'11", but this super ripped dude from Miami. He had Miami tattoos, arm, full sleeves, all that, slick back hair, earrings, and this dude looked like a genuine certified badass. Like one of those dudes that you're like, I don't even want to talk to that guy just in case I tick him off. He ended up being, without a doubt, the nicest guy I met all weekend. We got into a conversation after I made the smartass joke about the Braves giving Verlander his first win in 9 tries. I said that, and he came over to me, and he's like, I made the same joke on my show. I appreciate the Braves being so selfless that they were willing to let an old man have a win. I was like, that's great. So after spending 4 days in Atlanta, Georgia, after spending 3 days in Charlotte, North Carolina, we talked a lot of college football over the past 2 weeks. I got asked Wednesday night on BetMGM Tonight. I got asked who out of those 2 conferences are the biggest dark horse contenders and who are the biggest pretenders in all of college sports this year. And I had a couple of thoughts about both conferences. And I'll start with the ACC because it's fresh. We were just there. I have not turned in yet my projected order of finish of the Atlantic Coast Conference. I turned in my SECs last week. They went ahead and released those results on Friday. The ACCs, I found out yesterday, the media are not due until next week. They wanted to, I guess, give us some time to kind of chew the fat from the last 3 days and collect our thoughts and all that, which I appreciated because the SEC, they were like, get this done before you leave. The ACC is like, you got some time. Think about it, chew it over, figure it out, whatever. And I'm glad they did because I sat down last night once I got back from ACC Media Days. I sat down last night to fill out my ballot about the all-ACC preseason team and the projected order of finish for the Atlantic Coast Conference. And there is only one team that I am considering placing number 1. That is the Clemson Tigers. But I've also pointed out a number of times, I don't think that this is like as cakewalk of a 12-0 schedule as many of y'all think that it is. I think there is as good of a chance that Clemson could be 9-3, 10-2 as there is 11-1 or 12-0. And we talked about that earlier in the week. We'll bring it back up in a couple of weeks when we get to within the last 7 days of the college football countdown to kickoff. But I got to talking, who are the biggest threats? Who are the biggest threats to Clemson? And of those biggest threats, who do I trust and who don't I trust? Now, I don't think I have made it a secret that I think the Miami Hurricanes, honestly, on paper, Miami to me is the only team in the ACC that is close to Clemson in terms of talent. Honestly, I think on paper, I think they're neck and neck with each other. I think Clemson might be a little bit better. I think it might be a little bit better. But if they are, it's not by much. And I do think a lot of that comes down to, will Carson Beck play similar performance football to Cade Klubnik? And if the answer is yes, I think Miami-Clemson ACC title game is probably in the cards. But I don't trust Miami. And I don't trust the University of Miami because of Mario Cristobal. I do not trust Miami because I have already seen, both at Oregon, before he got to Miami, and since he's gotten to Miami, I've seen too many meltdowns from Mario Cristobal. I just don't think he's a guy that handles pressure very well. And I do think if you are looking to be the ACC conference champion this year, I think there will be pressure. Because while I think there are 3 teams that I consider genuine title threats, Clemson, Miami, and SMU, I do think there are 4 or 5 more teams that, while they're not on paper as good as those teams, and while I do not think through the course of the season they will be able to win ACC games at the rate that Miami, Clemson, and SMU will in order to get themselves to Charlotte at the end of the year, I do think there are a number of teams. I put Georgia Tech in this conversation. I put Louisville in this conversation. I think there are a few ACC teams that are good enough to be in that any given Saturday category, right? Like, I don't think they're good enough that they're going to stack up ACC wins and, oh my God, look at that, Georgia Tech is 11-1. I don't think we're getting there because I think Georgia Tech is still capable of losing to those top 3 teams when they line up against them. I think Georgia Tech is, as they displayed last year, capable of playing their best football and still having a dumb letdown game against like a Boston College or a Wake Forest or somebody. Because for a team like Georgia Tech to be dialed in enough to beat Clemson, Miami, SMU, I do think they've got to dial in on beating Clemson, Miami, SMU. And if you have to dial in on beating Clemson, Miami, SMU, sometimes you have to kind of take away from your focus and preparation on other teams, which is why you can lose to a dumb team, turn around the next week and take Georgia to 8 overtimes. And honestly, a game that Georgia Tech probably should have, could have, would have won earlier in that competition. So I don't think it's going to be as easy for Clemson, but here's the thing. I don't think it's going to be that easy for Miami either, whether it's because of Carson Beck. And I will tell you, I'm not in on Carson Beck as like a national, like as a Heisman contender. A lot of folks in Charlotte last week were. I'm not there yet. He did leave Georgia with a 24-3 record out of the Southeastern Conference. That's pretty damn good. I am in on that. I just don't know that it's going to be change schools, step into a new offense, a lot more spread offense, a lot more down the field dedicated offense, and just be that guy. Maybe he will be, and I'm wrong. But even if that is the case, I do think that Miami is going to go under the gun a number of times this year. Not the shotgun. I mean, like, high-pressure situation. And I don't trust Mario Cristobal in that spot. So because of that, I think Miami is, to some degree, a pretender. I think they've got all the talent in the world. I just think that at the end of this year, there's going to be a spot, whether it's in a game to clinch an ACC title game, because I do think Miami, Clemson, SMU, and maybe Louisville, to be honest with you, I think they're all going to be in that same 11-1, 10-2 mark. I think all 4 of those teams will be within a one direction or the other, a game of each other. And it may very well come down to head-to-head to determine who gets really both spots. We may have a tie that comes down to multiple tiebreakers. I don't know what the case is going to be, but I think they're all going to be within a game of each other. And if they're all within a game of each other, then more so last year than this year, there may be, instead of like 1 or 2 games down the stretch where the pressure is on Miami and Mario Cristobal has to perform and consistently doesn't, there may be 4 or 5 ACC games where the pressure is clearly on Miami and Mario Cristobal Georgia Techs it all over himself again. And if that turns out to be the case, Miami might eliminate themselves. So I put them in the pretender category. Not on talent, not on paper. I think on paper they're as good as anybody else. I just don't trust the guys who make the decisions down the stretch. I'll give you one out of the SEC. I'm not in on Texas A&M yet. I've made it very clear. I like Mike Elko a lot. I really wish for Duke's sake that Duke would have been able to keep Mike Elko. The reality of Texas A&M is this. A&M's got so much gosh darn oil money and so much gosh darn Fortune 500 CEO money in the bank. If Texas A&M wants your coach and your coach is in any way, shape, or form financially driven, Texas A&M's getting your coach. Remember, not only are they paying Mike Elko buku dinero, they're still paying Jimbo Fisher a gazillion damn dollars a year. What do they owe him? $2 billion to not coach? If they want your guy, they're getting your guy. So I wish Elko would have stayed at Duke because much like Brent Key at Georgia Tech, I think he's a dude that could have genuinely taken Duke and made them like a second-tier football team and not the cast-off they are. Now, I do think Manny Diaz, who I've had a lot of criticism of in the past, is doing a pretty good job at Duke so far. He I don't want to say won me over yesterday at ACC Media Days, but like I gained a little confidence in him. I don't believe in Texas A&M because here's the thing. Jimbo Fisher absolutely left behind a stacked roster. And on top of that, Mike Elko's done a pretty good job of recruiting. Texas A&M is a top 10, top 15 recruiting class, without a doubt. And always will be, because Texas A&M's got NIL money coming out the butt. Like, they're fine. They're gonna be able to pay as much as any other school in the country to get their guys once they kind of establish culture. I think the only reason A&M is not up there with Texas and Ohio State in terms of NIL valuation across the roster is because of the roster turnover in the last couple of years. With Jimbo's guys, who were pre-NIL guys, and now Elko having to kind of start to mix his roster over, I do think in the next 2-3 years, Texas A&M will consistently be like number 1 or number 2 in the NIL spending front because they got that money. Here's why I don't have A&M in my national championship discussion. Texas A&M's got a ridiculously difficult schedule. That includes Alabama, that includes Texas, that includes LSU. Texas A&M's schedule is stacked. I don't think there's many teams at all. This is Peter Burns said, do you think this is a year where we could potentially have a 9-3 team in an SEC championship competing for an automatic qualifier? My answer was yes. A&M has got on the road at Notre Dame, back home against Auburn, desperate team, Mississippi State, then back home for Florida. That's a team I think is on the rise. I'm in on the Lagway hype. At Arkansas, then at LSU, at Mizzou. Mizzou, I think, could be a team that is playing for Eli Drinkowitz's job. I don't think they're going to be very good, but, that could be a marquee keep-my-job win. Then you got South Carolina coming to the crib, and granted, the home team over the past, 5 years running, the home team has won that game, but this feels like a different breed of South Carolina Gamecock, and they end on the road at Texas. I think A&M's going to be, at best, 8-4. I don't have them in that mix yet. I don't think they're there. A team I heard a few times as a contender this week that I'm not in on yet, NC State. I heard NC State mentioned as a possible dark horse a number of times at ACC Media Days. I'm not there yet. Listen, I think Dave Doran is not just Dabo's nemesis. I think Dave Doran is a good roster building coach. I think NC State's got plenty of talent. I just don't think they put it together well. I just don't think that they are able to gel it well. And that's kind of been the methodology or the problem, the MO for NC State the last couple of years. They seem to be able to get a big win or two throughout the year. They seem to be able to take down every now and then a Clemson or a Florida State or a Miami, whatever. But then they also have dumb losses throughout. And that just tells me the consistency week to week's not there. And if the consistency hasn't been there, how long's Dave Doran been at NC State? Like 12 years plus? If you've been there that long and you still have not established consistency in the program, I just don't think you're going to be able to get there. A couple more that I think might be pretenders. Penn State. I keep seeing Penn State launched into Big Ten champion spot. And this is kind of a spot. I know it's a tired narrative, but I have said a gazillion times, narratives are ordinarily narratives for a reason. There's one of two reasons. Number one, they're pimp because people like to take them and make them into hot takes. Or number two, there's some truth to them. Penn State having the inability to win the big game, which I do think a lot of it comes down to consistently being one of the most conservative offensive teams in the Big Ten. They just don't take the big chances that let you beat Ohio State. I will believe they beat the Buckeyes when they beat the Buckeyes, and if they can't do that, they're not Big Ten champs. And I just don't see Penn State, if they can't win the Big Ten, going in and running a wood chipper of multiple Big Ten and Southeastern Conference teams to get there.
It's not just about Ohio State. Can they get past Michigan? Can they get past Oregon? I see the hype, and to me, and this is, yes, I'm biased, whatever. This is. It looks to me like they want another team to win other than Ohio State. On paper right now, Penn State does look like the stronger team all the way around. But it doesn't – he hasn't won the big one. And until he does, that reputation is there for a reason.
I don't disagree. And I will say this. Here's the good news for Penn State. They don't play Michigan in the regular season this year. Now, if I'm James Franklin, I'm kind of bummed about that because, If you were going to beat Michigan, this is the year to do it, right? Like it's a reset year, whatever.
Absolutely.
If you were going to beat Michigan, this is the year to do it. They do get Ohio State. Who do they play the week after Ohio State? Indiana. And again, I think Indiana's taken a step back from what they were last year, but you know Kurt Signetti. And if Penn State dials in Ohio State, watch Penn State. Watch James Franklin get it done against Ohio State on the road, but then turn around and lose to Indiana and Michigan State back-to-back weeks after that, right? Like there's just, I don't believe in that team.
Ohio State doesn't have to win the Big Ten to win the national championship.
I don't disagree.
No team has to.
No team does.
Yeah, they just don't.
Georgia, Texas don't have to win the SEC to win the Natty. But I do think if you're those teams this year specifically, because of the gaggle of teams that I think are going to be 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th in the SEC, and the same may be true in the Big Ten, and I do think the same is true in the ACC, because of the gaggle of teams that are all going to be grouped around each other, I don't think you can guarantee yourself a spot in the playoffs without being in the Big Ten championship game or in the SEC title game or in the ACC title game specifically.
I don't know if you have one loss. I mean, and your one loss is your last game. I mean, because I
don't disagree, but
it's historical right now.
I agree, but I don't disagree with that take. Here's the thing. I don't think you're going to see a bevy of 11-1 teams like we did the last couple of years. I think you're going to see first off, I don't think we see an undefeated team this year. I think this might be the year we do not have a 12-0 team. I think you'll have a fistful of 11-1 teams. I think you're going to have a buttload of 10-2 teams and a lot more 9-3 teams, and then it's going to be a maze. Texter said, in all caps, a man can dream about an 11-1 Georgia Tech team. I'm a Tech fan, and Clemson fans would honestly rather see them do better than Clemson. I don't get.
No, he meant Georgia. I mean, he you know.
You mean handing them the one in 11-1?
He was in a hurry.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
I've seen other people do that, by the way. So I mean, when you're in a hurry,
we'll find out. By the way. Text line, 844-326-3663. Send them now. I'll do some cleanup on the backside. Sports Flash, cleanup on the backside. Good job, Rob. Sports Flash.
I hear Dude Wipes is good for that. And by the way, thanks for saying bevy. This is not said enough. Professional wrestling legend Hulk Hogan passed away yesterday at 71 years of age. Hogan, whose real name was Terry Bollea, was one of pop culture's most recognizable figures and a mainstay in the wrestling world for decades. Hogan headlined the first WrestleMania in 1985, and the legend grew with WrestleMania 3 when he body slammed the 520-pound Andre the Giant. Legendary Kansas head basketball coach Bill Self was hospitalized with unknown but serious symptoms and had 2 stents inserted, according to source. Self is expected to make a full recovery. Self missed the 2023 Big 12 tournament due to chest tightness and dizziness, and underwent a heart catheterization and had 2 stents inserted then as well. First major trade in MLB leading up to next Thursday's trade deadline is in, as the Mariners acquired slugger and first baseman Josh Naylor from the Diamondbacks in return for 2 pitching prospects. Did I just not move that every single time? Oh, well. Started playing Cyberpunk again because I hadn't played it on next gen, and the DLC, I never bought it, and Cameron's been waiting for like 2 years for me to play it so we could talk about it. I forgot about how much French is in it. when they get to a place where it's basically a bunch of Cajun people, and you have a translator, and you're able to. But it's like, man, I know this language. Why is it? Oh, okay. Yeah, I should know. I recognize that one word. Did I?
Yes, we were talking about cyber.
Yeah, I just grabbed something. Whatever. I don't. This is the most Friday of Fridays for some reason.
Because I've been out of the studio for 7 days in the last 10.
I meant for me, but I'm glad it's for
No, I'm
you
saying for
also.
both of us.
Yeah, it's like
And I think my vibes have rubbed off on you. It's Senioritis Friday.
I'm like here, but I'm not like here.
Like
I don't
here,
know.
but like,
It's like
floating, bro.
it's. I'm not saying I don't want to be here because I want to be here. I mean, where else would I want to be than right here, right now? I think I slept well. I don't know. I just not with it. Yeah, it's okay. I mean, chances are if we leave the mics on, we're not going to say anything that, I mean, every once in a while. But for the most part, it's just more video games and wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, that's all it is. Steven, dude, I keep saying this to other people. Quit taking me so serious. I know my delivery is serious, but for the most part,
I want you to know I've been with Lonzo I've been around Lonzo for 5 years now, and I still fall for it a lot. The Rob Brown Show is back on your radio. It is the Fan Up State. 844-326-3663 is the Hub City Spartanburger text line. Jump on it. I have asked this morning for your thoughts, your reaction to the executive order from President Donald Trump issued last night about college sports. The conversation is about what the EO says, what it mandates, what can be done, what can't be done underneath it, what impact it may have on both college sports moving forward, and what it may or may not inspire Congress to do to get involved. I think it is partially a big discussion because the EO comes at obviously a very interesting time in the political climate. We'll leave that side off of the radio. It comes at a very interesting time in the sports world because while it came out, it was within a 48-hour span of, a 1 week span of Greg Sankey saying Congress needs to get involved, within a 48-hour span of Jim Phillips, the commissioner of the ACC, saying Congress needs to get involved, Rhett Lashley, the head coach at SMU, saying Congress needs to get involved, and a bevy of other coaches saying, look, at the end of the day, it's great to have the CSC, but the CSC has to do two things. Number one, hold people accountable, and number two, have the power to do so. But this is also what I've been saying since the CSC was propped up. It is, in principle, a tremendous idea. I just think in execution, it's to be lacking because we have already seen lawsuits that challenge the regulations put in place by the CSC that the CSC can't do anything about. They will need the backing of, whether you like it or not, they will need the backing of the federal government in order to be effective at what it is intended to do. Well, here's the federal government's first step in that direction. Remember, the NCAA, Charlie Baker himself has gone to Capitol Hill and has lobbied Congress directly to get involved and to establish guidelines for the NCAA. And Congress has said, on both sides of the political aisle, we are interested, we would love to help, but what we need is for the NCAA to lay down exactly what it wants to be able to do and not to do, so that we can say, here's where we can step in and back you up, and here's where we can't step in and back you up, and really have kind of a roadmap for what Congress can do without just starting to spew a bunch of stuff willy-nilly that will ultimately get shot down. This is a step in that direction.
All right, so part of my problem today, because I'm a little hazy, is the politics. I'm just so turned off by politics. It makes it hard for me to listen. And I've been waiting for an answer and I should have asked this question because I don't know if this is what this means. Does this mean that colleges can no longer pay the players?
So once again,
however you word it, can they pay an amount that the players get?
The revenue share, or
That's
what
it.
you have referred to as pay.
Revenue share. I couldn't remember how you worded it.
The revenue sharing is still a thing. That is just
okay.
Because
to me it looked like, and again, I really do have a politics block. I really had trouble understanding it. But the fact that, to me, it looked like he was stopping them from getting paid.
As far as
so I don't get what this actually does.
As far as money goes, realistically, just my outside looking in view, as far as money goes, this doesn't change anything. Revenue sharing is still on the table from the House settlement. That's not, as of right now, that's not going anywhere. The only thing in terms of finances that this does, I guess there's technically two. The first one, as we mentioned, it makes the National Labor Relations Board and the Department of Labor, those two entities, which are they are the authority when it comes to labor relations in the United States. Like the laws and guidelines that Odyssey has to follow in their relationship with us as employees, those are majoritively dictated and controlled by, overseen, enforced effectively by the National Labor Relations Board and the Department of Labor. And so what this EO says is that those two entities, both of which fall under the purview of the executive office, those two will not refer to or treat or define college athletes as employees.
This is just about wording. This is about, because if you're an employee, then you can unionize, and then there's so many other things you can do if you're an employee. But so it's really about language more so than doing anything. I'm trying to grasp this, and I'm struggling.
Yeah, no, that is effectively it. It is by making it where the executive office, and therefore the two head departments of labor relations, will not refer to college sports athletes as employees. It creates a world where colleges and universities do not have to treat them as employees, and therefore do not have to provide to them certain benefits and protections that, say, you and I are entitled to as employees of Odyssey.
You also kind of win. And good for you, because I've been trying to get you to call them employees forever. Now the government's stepping in and saying, no, you can't call them employees.
Well, for the record,
so Rob Brown will win. So this is what this all is about.
Donald Trump himself. This is how you know Lonzo is 1,000% bought into the conspiracy theory of everybody out there is just trying to help me. Because Donald Trump signed an EO last night with every intention of going, screw Lonzo. That guy's the worst. Can't stand him. So I'm going to write this EO, big EO.
If I would have just stuck around when he was here and got pictures like everybody else
You'd have been in the club.
Yeah, I did not do that.
That's exactly
I wanted to get out of the building and not get stuck here.
I went to Greenville. I went in that office, and the only guy who didn't talk to me was Lonzo. So screw that guy. By the way, directly at him.
I was the only one who didn't. Because everybody else stuck around, including the most diehard people on the other side. Stuck around. I did not, and I think this is all about me.
It's targeted at you. In fact,
it's my story.
What it should be called is the Screw Lonzo Act. All right, it's the SLO. It's not an EO, it's an SLO. It's the Screw Lonzo Act. The guy's the worst.
I'd be kind of proud of that, actually. That would be kind of cool.
So basically, the first big to me, the most important thing of this is by not labeling them employees, it protects the schools and the universities from having to provide protections and benefits that are guaranteed to people who are employees across the United States. That's the protect the finances. That's, again, When that conversation started and we started talking about antitrust exemptions and allowing them to unionize, well, in order to unionize, they have to be defined as employees. Along with being defined as employees, they get all of these legally mandated protections and benefits, which is going to cost the schools even more money. And that's where I said you're under threat of other sports flat out going away. Well, to address that, one of the other executive orders, or one of the other mandates in this executive order, is that non-revenue sports and Olympic sports are to some degree protected in that based on the amount of athletic revenue that you bring in, you must either increase scholarship spots for non-revenue sports, Olympic sports, if you make over $125 million per year. You must maintain current levels if you make over $50 million a year. And if you make under $50 million a year, you cannot reduce scholarships to non-revenue and Olympic sports without reducing scholarships to revenue sports by a proportionate amount. Now, again, much like many laws are intentionally written, many executive orders are written in a way that they leave to some degree some vagary in there intentionally. Why? So that they can have a little bit of wiggle room as certain situations pop up to say, well, that's not what we meant, or that is what we meant. And that is why ordinarily when laws are debated, that is ordinarily when EOs are debated by folks from the other party than whatever party holds the executive office at the time, usually what is honed in on is those vagaries. Because I want you to drill down to really define what you need, what you want to be legal and not legal. And again, an EO is not law. It is not mandated. It is not codified. It is not enshrined as law. And so that is why these vagaries in this EO sign last night are going to be relentlessly picked apart today. And that does include by me. Because if you are going to issue this, and it is a directive that 3 specific departments are required to follow: the National Labor Relations Board, the Department of Labor, and the Department of Education. Because the other big one, and this kind of falls under the same concern I have about the executive power being able to have a voice in, maybe not the end-all, be-all voice, but having a voice in which third-party NIL deals are fair market value and are not. My big concern, and I had this is not a political thing, this is the exact same thing I brought up when the CSC was established, and it was a major talking point for that. The concern I had was, who the hell gets to be the voice that decides that a third-party deal is or is not fair market value, right? If a local business here in Greenville comes up to the office and says, we'd like an endorsement deal with Lonzo, and we'd like to pay Lonzo $500,000 a year to promote our Italian restaurant. We'd like to give him $500,000 a year. That is so far above and beyond.
I can really talk about spicy meatballs.
Spicy meatballs.
I can push the spicy
it's to me,
meatballs.
Alonzo. If somebody wanted to come in here and give Lonzo $500,000 to endorse their local restaurant, that is so far above and beyond any endorsement deal that anybody in this building has to speak for, to represent, to endorse a business. So, is that market? It depends. If that restaurant says, we genuinely want that, yeah. With the acknowledgement that if that was the case, I can also promise you, Odyssey would probably send corporate lawyers down here to have a lot of conversations about that deal to make sure that Lonzo's not running a mafioso that's doing some money laundering for this restaurant.
I'm getting that amount of money. How much are the salespeople getting?
Exactly. They would come down and they would ask a lot of questions and do a full-scale investigation. And for the record,
how is that no talent hack?
Getting $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
But that genuinely, that would raise a flag.
And an Italian restaurant kind of, could be something else going on.
Reason I picked what I picked. The thought here is that if a deal of that magnitude and that size is going on, then you would want to nitpick every detail of it to ensure that it is not being done for shady or nefarious purposes. And in the case of college football, you would say, let's fine-tooth comb this to make sure that this is not a pay-for-play endorsement. It is also one of the reasons that I have said that I honestly think, and again, this would have to be codified into law by Congress. I don't think this is something that the CSC would be able to legislate, but one of the things down the road, and I've got to think about this a lot more, but like off-the-cuff reaction, one of the things that I think should happen, I do not think that players or agents on their behalf should be able to have conversations about a name, image, and likeness contract until they are signed and on scholarship with a school. An NIL conversation should only be allowed to me. And again, I got to think about this because I may not have gotten to a logical conclusion I need to get to. But I think name, image, and likeness contracts, because I do think they should go contract, should not be allowed to be signed off on until that player is on a scholarship. Because if they are entering into NIL contract deals before they go to a school, even though it is an NIL contract in which money is discussed changing hands in return for promotion by that player once they become a whatever school they're going to play for's mascot here. Also, I could make an argument that philosophically speaking, that's pay for play, right? I could say
I've made that argument for a while, but the thing is, if you wait till they're on scholarship, if you're the kid going to go there, you're like, okay, well, what if I get there and you don't give it to me?
1,000%.
So you're going to want to sign it before you go there. So it goes both ways.
100%. That is part of the reason that hasn't, probably won't happen because, again, and this all goes back to the OG point from a couple of years ago when the CSC became the discussion, whatever. The NCAA did this back asswards. It should have been prop up a buttload of rules, regulations, and protocols and make players and agents challenge those one by one to knock them down, as opposed to put up none and then have to challenge the players and agents to prop them up one by one. We did it backwards, but that's where we are. So this EO gets into a lot of that. Again, I am not a big fan personally of utilizing federal funding in place for colleges and universities, which for me is a wonderful investment of my tax dollars. That's just one of the places I do not mind my tax dollars going. PBS, an investment in the education of the next generation, because I want them to be smarter than me, and I want the generation after them to be smarter than them, right? So I don't have a problem. I do have a problem with utilizing, this is just a personal philosophy, we can debate it. I do have a problem with utilizing federal funding for colleges and universities specifically and only because they do not want to follow the guidelines of the executive branch, not laws that are placed into play by Congress and that are evaluated and allowed by the judicial branch of the United States of America's government. But if the president, no matter who it is, says, I want it done this way, and a school says, we never done it that way, we're not going to start doing it that way now, to say, cool, then you're not getting federal funding, I do have an actual problem with that. And that is something that is stated in the CEO. It's something I have a problem with away from college sports, but it is obviously something I have a problem with in the college sports landscape as well. 844-326-3663, 844-FANFONE is the number if you'd like to be a part of the show. I want your thoughts on this, sincerely. Like, this is a heavy conversation because there's a lot of angles to it. There's a lot of depth to it. I spent probably an hour and a half last night laying in bed while the wife was watching Law & Order, just reading and thinking and spitting out ideas and then knocking them down and blah, 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 blah. Spent a lot of time on this. I understand it's going to take a lot of time for a lot of us to reach what our opinion is with the knowledge that could change on a dime. But I am looking for yours. What was your reaction last night when you read this news? What is your reaction this morning when you heard the news? What is the reaction to what I've said about it? 844-326-3663. Tweet me at The Rob Brown Show. Or email me if it's longer thought, but you don't want to come on air, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. I want your opinions. Your opinions will help shape mine, and I hope vice versa. All right, we'll get away from this. When we come back here in just a minute, we had a lot of stories break over the last couple of days and media days. We're going to get to some of those. I've got some NBA, some MLB we need to get to, and we're going to have a lot of fun because the third hour, Friday hour. We're going to talk about the legacy of Hulk Hogan, his passing yesterday at 71. Ryan McGee put out his power rankings of the best mascots in college sports. And yes, while we're out of ranking season, this one was fun, so I want to do it again. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio, kids. It's the Fan Upstate.
It's about to have to grab some Chad.
Man, we ain't found... That is one of my favorite lines from Spaceballs, the movie. I yell that line at my wife with great regularity. If we are looking for something around the house, which happens,
her like it hurt me when you just did that.
well, it's usually like if we're in different rooms because we just can't find where's your keys, where's your phone, where'd I put that document, whatever. And she goes, "You found it, man? I ain't found." It's one of the best quotes from that movie. Stay right there, dudes. BRB. Yes, James, buttload is an actual unit of measurement. Specifically, it was a unit of measurement in medieval times to sell wine. I think it was like 14 point something gallons was a buttload. which makes every time I say a buttload of blank technically correct. If I say I got a buttload of money, it means I got 14.6 gallons of money. I don't know how that translates in the metric system, but it's accurate. So just as kind of a fun little aside, apparently a fan of the Chicago Bears, the Bears, was in the Vatican over the weekend, and apparently the fan of the Chicago Bears gave Pope Leo XIV a shirt that says "the Pope" on it. And while I understand that there is a level of gravitas that the Pope must maintain when the Pope is out in public because he's, the friggin' Pope, huh? I got to tell you, I don't think I want anything more than for the Pope to come out to give an official address to the masses gathered there at the Vatican City, wearing a shirt that says "the Pope" on it. I got to tell you, the Chicago folks having a little fun with a Chicago-born Pope has been great. There was a parade a couple of weeks ago where somebody standing at the side of the parade, I don't know if it was a parade or just the Pope going somewhere, and the masses of Catholics lining the streets. One of the fans gave him a White Sox hat, and he just put it on. So now there's a picture of a Pope just wearing a White Sox hat, which is great because they need all the help they can get. So maybe having the Pope in the corner, maybe I got to tell you, I thought about it when the Pope got named and it came out that he was spotted at the White Sox World Series or the Cubs World Series a long time ago. He's a Chicago guy, but he's a White Sox guy, technically speaking. When that came out, I was like, I think I'm going to go put a bet on the White Sox to win the World Series. Granted, I'm really glad I didn't because they are still not good at baseball. But next year, right? Maybe there's a little divine intervention coming the way of the Chicago White Sox. I just need the Pope to come out before the NFL season. If the Pope comes out before the NFL season wearing a shirt with the Bears font that says "the Pope" on it, I want you to know I'm betting the farm on Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson just winning the Super Bowl outright this year. Betting the farm on it. All right. Let's get to a couple of other things.
Hey, man, you ain't got no farm.
Pope. Hey, who would win in a fight? Pope Leo XIV or Mike Ditka? I don't know. Tough question, Bob. That's a great question, Bob. All right. MLB trade deadline is now 6 days away. We had our first big move get made last night as the Arizona Diamondbacks, in return for a pair of prospect pitchers, decided to send their slugging first baseman Josh Naylor up to the Seattle Mariners, which is it's an interesting move. I think it's a good move for the Mariners because their starting rotation is outstanding and has been for a very long time. The problem for Seattle has been the last couple of years, and this has been a gripe for both me and Cody Decker, as well as Jay Kassan of the BetMGM Network. The gripe has historically been the Mariners put together a top tier, all-time top tier pitching staff, and then give them zero-run support. Well, all of a sudden, the big dumper and your 2025 home run derby champion, Cal Raleigh, is a slugger. But he's kind of it in that lineup. There's a lot of contact guys, very little power guys. Now they've got a power guy. Now, he is a slugging first baseman, not necessarily known for the big dong power. He's got 11 dingers on the year so far, but he's batting .292, .360, .447, 11 home runs, 59 RBIs, and just 49 strikeouts in 394 plate appearances. He was an all-star last year, has got some good defensive numbers. So he's an immediate impact for the Mariners. On the flip side, the Diamondbacks ain't it. And that is unfortunate because they spent the last couple of years building a very good young roster around Corbin Carroll and the gang, but they're just not getting it done this year. So this is an acknowledgement that it is an immediate retool around. Now, it'll be around the young starters because I do think that you are looking at some very young talent. Corbin Carroll, Ketel Marte, Geraldo Perdomo. There's young talent on this Diamondbacks roster, but they are kind of saddled with a handful of older vet guys like Eugenio Suarez, who I do think is probably on the block now. I think this is a signal that the Diamondbacks are officially sellers. We will find out. There is some more trade deadline. The Mets are apparently active. Houston is apparently making phone calls looking for a new third baseman. Ryan McMahon of the Rockies is very much in play for them. There is a question mark about whether or not Dylan Cease may be traded. He's eligible for free agency at the end of the year, kind of an expiring contract situation. The question is, would the Padres trade the strikeout prop king Dylan Cease and maybe use him to pick up a couple of back-end arms, which has been a problem for them, or add another bat to the lineup? The Twins are a team that is expected to be active. They've got a couple of bullpen pitchers, high-profile bullpen pitchers. Griffin Jax, Joan Duran are both on that list that are apparently out there, but apparently the Twins are asking for some very high prices because the contracts of those players are available to be controlled through 2027, and the Twins are in the process of being potentially sold. So there's question marks about, will new owners want to come in and rebuild the roster in their image, or will they be happy with what's there? And if they are not, guys that are on contract from 2027 could bring in a, James, buttload of young prospects that you could then kind of figure out who's the guy, who's not the guy, and can move on for. Here's basically what we know about the team that most of you care about, which is your Atlanta Braves. I think the Braves want to look at selling. The problem is they just don't have, as we have talked about a number of times, they don't have a lot of pieces that they can move right now. There was conversation about perhaps Michael Harris being moved off the team. There was conversation about everybody as a potential piece. It's just the problem is the Atlanta Braves were so deep in bringing up guys, developing guys, and then signing guys to long extensions that some of them maybe have not lived up to the value of those long extensions that the Braves were willing to hand out. And so now what you have is guys that are underperforming that may get better with a change of scenery, but guys that are either underperforming to where the value of them versus picking up the contract the Braves gave them isn't there, meaning either teams are going to be uninterested because they have to pay for that contract, or the Braves will have to maintain some level of financial responsibility for that player to move them, which means that they're probably not going to be able to, they'll still end up with not a lot of money to move into new guys down the line. The one name that has been popped up in quite a bit of trade speculation, aside from Marcell Ozuna, who I do think is as good as gone, the one name that has popped up is Sean Murphy as a possibility. But according to sources out of Atlanta, the Braves are not looking to trade Sean Murphy. He is playing relatively well this year. The reason Murphy's name popped out is the emergence of Drake Baldwin, the rookie, who has been playing catcher at a level just as high as Sean Murphy. And I think the indication a couple of days ago when they decided to finally sit Marcell Ozuna, he's been dealing with a hip injury, one he could play through, but it's kind of hampered him a little bit, but has also been described as an injury that needs a number of weeks to completely heal up. Marcell Ozuna is probably not going to get you a lot back in return because no matter who signs him, he's probably not going to be available until closer to the playoffs. So if you're going to trade to add the bat of Marcell Ozuna, you have to recognize already that you are definitively a playoff team, of which there's only a few of those in the league right now. And you are obviously, with his contract, taking the gamble that when he comes back after sitting out for 4, 5, 6 weeks to get right, that he's going to come back and just fall right back into being the big bear. And not a lot of teams are willing to do that. But we do have reports now that Sean Murphy is not on the trade block right now. They do owe him $15 per year with a contract that lasts until 2028 and a team option in 2029. So what they did was send Ozuna to the bench, and they are basically, I think, going to be alternating Sean Murphy and Drake Baldwin between catcher and DH. They'll each kind of spend some time doing both. I think the Braves are in a spot where if it wasn't for the way they constructed the roster, the Braves would be big-time sellers right now. They would just try to stack prospects and try to do what they've done in years gone by. I think that they would try to get a lot of young guys in to find the next Ronnie, the next Orlando, the next Michael Harris Jr., whatever. I just don't think they can. I don't think they can. I think they're saddled with a lot of these contracts, and the guys that are not that, there is some reason, either injury or underperformance. Chris Sale's one of those guys. If Chris Sale was healthy and Chris Sale was pitching at the level that he had been pitching at the last couple of months before he fractured 2 ribs, I think Chris Sale would be the biggest trade piece on the market. I think the Braves would get an absolute haul for Chris Sale. But much like with Marcell Ozuna, he is still a number of weeks from being able to return. And if you're going to take on a contract like the one Chris Sale has with the Atlanta Braves, if you are going to take on that contract, you have to be very, very confident that Chris Sale is going to be ready to come back in time for the playoffs, which is probable but not a guarantee. And you are rolling the dice that when he comes back from a fractured rib, he's going to go right back to performing at the same level that he was performing at. And there is some speculation that perhaps the reason Chris Sale is performing is because Atlanta is, by and large, a relatively pitcher-friendly park. Remember, Chris Sale was getting his ass kicked when he was in Boston. That's why he ended up in Atlanta. He sucked his last couple of years in Boston. The Red Sox basically let him walk for nothing. The Braves said, well, we need an arm, so we'll give him a shot. Turns out Chris Sale was still pretty good, but is it because it was a pitcher-friendly park? I don't know the answer to that. And so you get guys like that. I just don't think there's as much value in that as you'd like there to be. And because of that, I think the Braves should be sellers. I don't think they can. So this deadline, which is now 6 days away, is one that ordinarily I would say would be very active for the Atlanta Braves. I just don't think they have the capability or reason to be very active, but we'll find out. All right, we'll talk a lot more baseball as we get closer to next Thursday's trade deadline. We got a few more things that I want to get to coming up on the show. We've got to get to the life, the legacy of Hulk Hogan, passing away yesterday at 71 years of age. We'll do that to start the 9 o'clock hour. Happy Gilmore 2 dropped today. All right? Lonzo's upset because he's scratching it off of Twitter trending topics. I'm good with that.
Actually, I'm not because it's trending, but something else is trending about it. Now, if you mention that, then I will.
I'm going to take one shot at it. And if it is, good, because it's part of the reason I want to talk about. I'll do that. I'll ask, is it about a specific cameo in Happy Gilmore 2?
There are 10,000 cameos.
There are 10,000 cameos in this
yes,
thing.
it's about.
Is it about one specific?
Yeah, it's about a thing.
It's about a thing. Is it about is it about a person?
It's about a swing.
Okay. I think I know what it's talking about. We'll talk about Happy Gilmore 2 dropping because it's Friday. Shut up, I want to, and plenty more.
Well, I'm going home to watch that.
Oh, sure. It's a daytime watch for me today, without a doubt. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate.
Almost made it. Some things I put on there, it's like, okay, he'll say it because he just will, and then I'll just have to. But unless you talk about the specific thing, I will leave it on there. But you probably will talk about the specific thing because it's jumped up all over my feed. So,
well, if it's part of the teaser trailer that dropped this morning,
no,
I'm about to because I'm about to watch it.
You said MJF was a lot of fun, so that's another reason to watch it.
Wait, I gotta see what is his T-shirt? MJF wearing a T-shirt in the trailer that says "Heaven sent to make your day." He's even MJF when he's not MJF. Phenomenal.
Well, think about it. I mean, he basically acts like what Happy Gilmore's son would be to a degree.
You got a strap if you want to use the strap.
Yeah, I'm trying not to watch anything else until I actually watch the thing. Since it's out
I've seen a handful of clips. You know, Travis Kelce's in it.
Yeah, he's been on twice. Sandler's been on twice, including this week talking about it.
So I forget the cat's name, and I shouldn't, but also congrats that I know you by face. The actor, I forget the guy's name, who plays Shooter McGavin, was on the PGA Network yesterday.
It's Christopher McDonald, I think?
Yeah, something. I forget his name. I feel bad about it. Shooter McGavin was on the PGA Tour Network yesterday. and they were talking about the movie. And they said, of all the cameos or of all the golfers who were in the movie, who's the best actor? And he goes, I'm going to start with Travis Kelce. And they go, he's not a golfer. And he goes, yeah, that kid can act. He's an entertainer. He goes, but of the golfers, you know who was honestly the best actor on film? Who would you guess? Just knowing the golfers that we've talked about on the show, who would you not think is the answer?
I don't know. Scotty Scheffler.
That was my first answer. I'm like, there's no way. Scotty's the most normal, regular dude on tour. There's no way. Shooter immediately went, Scotty Scheffler's the best actor out of all of them. He was like, he had takes that you were like, this is just who you are. Like, you're an actor, which I thought was great. And he said, you know why he's such a great actor? And he said, why? They said, because he brought the same mentality to acting that he brought to the golf course, which is just, I'm just going to do this thing and be the best at it. And the guy goes, oh. He goes, what kind of mentality is that? And he goes, the shooter mentality. Shooter. Like he did it. And I'm like, yeah, Shooter's back.
Well, I follow the fake Shooter McGavin.
I do too. He's awesome.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
So between that, Fantastic Four, and all the San Diego Comic-Con stuff dropping, right? I'm good tomorrow. My show prep is done.
Right?
Almost done. By the way, for those of you watching who actually listened last week, I will try to be less of me this week.
I got to listen to me. I went from 205.5 to 213 over the last 2 weeks.
See, I wasn't talking about weight.
No,
I was just talking about being silly. But anyway, now I'm back to being depressed. Thank you.
Sorry to
I'm going through deep depression right now about my weight and how I asked for help and it wasn't given. Sorry to get too serious. Coming back from break.
One's out here ruining the buzz, man.
Sorry.
So ESPN has put out their list of the top 25 swing games for every top 25 team.
That could have went a totally different way. So we can talk about swing games.
No upside down pineapples in this one.
Okay. All right.
So top 25 swing games. No, these are not games that you and your wife with your alternative lifestyle should go to. This is not that kind of swinging. All right.
This is a special night in the ballpark tonight.
I'm just telling you. Throw your keys in that upside down football helmet. Let's see what happens.
The Kiss Cam guy just quit because he didn't know what to do.
A lot of. All right, no, we got to stop with that
line
of jokes.
I'll
get myself in trouble with that. No, if you're going to a swingers party, you ain't getting Coldplay because everybody knows what's happening at that Penn State versus Oregon game. All right, that's their top swing game of the year. They say Penn State versus Oregon.
So now I'm like, wait, wasn't he with her? Was it?
I mean, if they're at a swingers party, you're not asking why anybody's with anybody.
I'm talking about the camera guy who didn't know it was swingers night and can't figure out why all this stuff is going on. Anyway.
If any minor league baseball team ever throws a theme night that is swingers night, it will go down as the greatest theme night in the history of theme nights, as far as Kiss Cams go.
It's probably already happened.
I think it'll become more than Kiss Cam. Would ultimately end up being that Kiss Cam.
Okay, that's probably enough. But it is Friday, so
it is Friday. All right, top 25 swing games. Let me give you the games that they selected for both the Clemson Tigers and the South Carolina Gamecocks, according to ESPN. We will start with the team that is toward the top of the rankings, and that, of course, is the Clemson Tigers, prohibitive and odds-on favorite to win the 2025 ACC title. They are also one of the front runners for the 2025 National Championship game. For the Clemson Tigers, the South Carolina Gamecocks, we start with Clemson, and they say that the swing game that will make or break the season for Clemson is the opener versus LSU on August 30th. Here's the ESPN write-up on why they selected that game as Clemson's biggest swing game of the year. They say, quote, "This one is fairly obvious. The Tigers open the season at home against LSU, a huge game that will serve to show whether all the hype surrounding Clemson is warranted. Clemson has lost 3 of its past 4 season openers, including 2 to another SEC school in Georgia. Winning is hugely important, but so is the way Clemson looks right out of the gate with an experienced team that returns its best playmakers on offense and some of its best defenders from a year ago. Here is why eye test matters to perception. In those 3 season opening losses to Georgia in 2021 and 24 and Duke in 2023, Clemson managed to score a combined 13 points and just 1 total touchdown. That simply cannot happen with quarterback Cade Klubnik entering year 3 as the starter," end quote. That, by the way, was written by Andrea Adelson from ESPN, and I will tell you that I genuinely don't hate the logic behind that. I think the last couple of years there has been a few reasons for some of you, excuses for others. I think one of them is the fact that, just respectfully, Georgia's just been Georgia. That's just a good football team. Now, getting blown out by Georgia twice is not what you're looking for, because what I think the write-up here for Andrea Adelson is effectively not that they got to win. It's just that they can't get their ass whipped again on opening day. Because the difference between this team and the last couple of years is, as she leans on in her write-up here, you have a lot of veteran experience this year. This isn't a year where you look at the starting 22 in week 1 and go, this is the first game for a lot of these guys, or this is the first big game as starters for a lot of these guys. You look at these teams and you go, or you look at these players and you go, these guys have been here. Antonio Williams has been in these games before. Cade Klubnik has been in these games before. A lot of these guys have been defensively. You've got a handful of returners who have been in these games before. And it is at your crib. This is not in Atlanta. This is not in North Carolina. This is not in a neutral site bowl game. This is your house. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, Clemson fans, you better be voracious in buying up those tickets, because I'm going to keep it a buck with you. If a ticket hits the secondary market, it will end up in the hands of an LSU fan. They travel. I've seen it. As well as anybody in the country travels to away games. Every ticket that ends up available for more than a minute or two on the secondary market will end up in the hand of an LSU fan. Book that right now. It will be the loudest non-South Carolina away team that you have faced in a very long time. I will go so far as to say maybe ever.
Oh, are you expecting fisticuffs possibly in the stands?
I mean, if Clemson fans defend that house like that, then yeah, because the LSU fans, they talk a lot of smack. All right? I don't know. I got to keep it a buck. Very solid chance Rob Brown isn't buying or isn't getting a press conference to this game. Very solid chance Rob Brown's buying a ticket to go watch this game in the stands.
I don't think you're going to have a press conference saying that you're going to the game, although technically that's what you're doing now.
We'll see. We'll see what happens. If I go to this game, very good chance I'm going as a spectator, as a fan in the crowd, because I'm more interested in what's going to happen out there. Scratch that. I'm as interested as what's going to happen out there.
Well, you have no skin in this game, so you wouldn't be cheering in the press box.
No, I don't
go watch in the press box.
I don't intend to go and pick a side.
Because you're not supposed to cheer in the press box.
Not supposed to. It is against the rules. No, it's against the rules. It is that you will get booted. Either direction, you will get booted. So I want to go as a fan in the stands, but I do not think that is the swing game.
More of a guideline.
No, it's a rule.
No,
it is on boards.
By the way, it depends on what press box.
Sure,
that's all. That's why I'm.
If I recall correctly, and I didn't go to one last year before that, if I recall correctly, Clemson has it on their rules of the press box. You are not to cheer for the team, even the home team. You're just not supposed to do it.
Lots of silent fist pumps.
No doubt about that.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
The correct response is you can't disrupt the work of anybody around you, is what it comes down to. All right. That to me, though, that is not the swing game for this team. That is not the swing game. The swing game for me is one of two of them, and I think which one it is I will know probably about week 4. There are 2 dates on this schedule for Clemson that I think stand out as the 2 swing games, the 2 games that can make or break the season. November 8th at home against Florida State. November 14th on the road at Louisville are the 2 teams I think are the swing games for Clemson. And here's why I say it's one of those 2. I don't know if Florida State has the bounce back year. I will tell you this, and listening to Mike Norvell give his state of the school on Wednesday, I described him as a desperate street preacher. Like guy on the side of the road with the bullhorn yelling about hellfire and brimstone, and you gotta get excited about all this, except for like not a particularly good one. You know what I mean? Like you've heard those people. It's like not a particularly good sidewalk preacher.
Now managed to get religion and politics into the show. What is going on?
Politics majorly important. I don't think it's so much the religion as it is. That's the best example of guy I can find that screams a bunch about how the way of the world is right now. So
well, there's certain guys on the radio.
That's also fair enough. That's also fair enough. Mike Norvell seemed to me in his press conference on Wednesday, he didn't sound like a guy that's like uber confident in his football program. He sounded like a desperate guy. He shouted. That's coming from me. Shouted every coaching cliche in the book twice. I mean, shouted. He was desperate. So if FSU is going to have the bounce back season that I think that they want to have, then Florida State could, because who do you get? You got SMU, then you got Duke. Manny Diaz and the Duke Blue Devils might be, I said last year about Duke, might be the best team they've ever had. Talent-wise, this might be the best team they've ever had. Maybe it won't be the best team, but talent-wise on paper, I think it is. If Duke is as good as I think they can be, and if Florida State has a bounce back, then those 2 games become very interesting. And what might happen is you get caught not looking ahead to that road trip to Louisville. And I think Jeff Brom and the Cardinals, I think they might average north of 40 a game. That offense is going to be electric around Chris Bell and Miller Moss. Look the hell out. So Florida State, if they bounce back, is that swing game, because you could either get caught worried about Duke and looking ahead to Louisville. But if Florida State stinks and they're not back, you take it out on Florida State. Maybe you're not ready for Louisville. You've worn yourself out, because that's a tough 6-game stretch that ends at Louisville. That's tough. For the South Carolina Gamecocks in the top swing games, according to ESPN, this article written up by David Hale, who says that is the Aggies of Texas A&M on November 15th. David Hale writes, quote, South Carolina has an absolute gauntlet of a 5-game stretch in the middle of the season that starts with a trip to LSU before hosting Oklahoma and Alabama, then going on the road to Ole Miss and Texas A&M. If the Gamecocks want to make a playoff run, they'll likely need to win at least 2 of those 5 and maybe 3, given that Missouri and Clemson are also on the docket, which could be a big ask. So what's the pivot point? If we assume the Gamecocks can take care of business at home, a big assumption to be sure, that means they'll need to steal at least 1 on the road. Ole Miss smoked South Carolina and Columbia last year, so that could be a tall order, and winning in Baton Rouge is never easy. So that puts the focus squarely on Texas A&M. A big win on the road over the Aggies in mid-November could be a statement to the playoff committee and put South Carolina squarely in the mix for a top 12 position. I actually don't have a debate with that one. I don't. Now, I can make the argument that Virginia Tech, South Carolina State, Vandy, Missouri, and Kentucky. If South Carolina wants to be a playoff team, there is only one proclamation I will make here. If South Carolina is going to be a playoff team, Lonzo, they have to be 5-0 to start the year. You must win against Virginia Tech, South Carolina State, Vanderbilt, Missouri, and Kentucky. If you want to be a playoff team, you have to be 5-0. Anything less than 5-0 out of the game.
They've got to be favored in all those games, right?
They likely, I believe that they are or will be. I believe they're a slight favorite over Tech, obviously over SC State, with all due respect. I think they'll be a favorite over Vandy, Missouri, and Kentucky. So you do have to go 5-0. Remember, what's the old phrase? You want to be a good team? Win all the games you're supposed to win, half the games you're not. They will be favorites in all 5. They will be a dog at LSU. Oklahoma, I don't know. That's at South Carolina. They may be a slight favorite. I think that's probably a pick'em game. You'll probably, even with Alabama coming to your house, you'll probably be a dog against Alabama. You'll probably be a dog in a road game at Ole Miss. You probably will be a dog at Texas A&M. So you are looking at 5 consecutive games where you are likely to be a dog. And you will be a dog even at home against Clemson, too, unless Clemson implodes, which I'm not predicting that. So you are looking in the final 7 games of the year, you were looking at probably 6 games you will be an underdog in. If you want to be a playoff team, I think 9-3 will have you in the conversation for the 12th, 11th, 12th spot. I think 9-3 will have you in the conversation. I think if you're 10-2 this year, I think you will out of the Southeastern Conference. I think 10-2 in the SEC will absolutely get you in. So, being a dog at LSU, at home against Oklahoma, at home against Alabama, at Ole Miss, at Texas A&M, and against Clemson. And knowing that you will likely have to win a couple of those, I think your best bets are at Ole Miss and at Texas A&M. So I think knowing that, you will likely be dialed up, geared up, and ready against a team that whips you in your own house last year. That makes this a bit of a revenge game for the guys that are coming back. I think if you are eyes on, locked on to Ole Miss, maybe you're not taking Texas A&M. Even though that's been an absolute battle game the last couple of years, maybe you get caught up in that Ole Miss game. You're not ready for A&M. I will tell you this. If you drop games to both Ole Miss and Texas A&M, if you have not already defeated LSU, Oklahoma, Alabama, a combination of 2 of those 3, if you beat 2 of those 3, I think you can lose Ole Miss or Texas A&M and be okay. I think if you lose all 3 to LSU, Oklahoma, and Alabama, you will have to go undefeated in those 2 road games and beat Clemson at the end of the year. I will say, if South Carolina's going into the playoffs this year, which is absolutely on the table, I do think they will have to be 10-2. I think at 9-3, there may be a little bit of that who's got blue blood pedigree and would have the same record, a bigger brand, and would get in. I promise you, you do not want to play your brand gets you in game if you're South Carolina. You need to let it speak on the football field. Those Ole Miss A&M games, to me, right now, on July 25th, those both feel like must-win games. So I don't have a problem with that write-up. Let's take a break here, and in just a minute, when we come back, Hulk Hogan passing away yesterday at 71 years of age. Obviously, the biggest personality, the biggest character, maybe the most important figure in the history of an industry Lonzo and I both love in professional wrestling. Also a very complicated and kind of tragic guy away from the ring. We will talk about the life and times of one Hulk Hogan when we come back. We'll rank the best 10 mascots in college sports to wrap it up. All of that coming after Lonzo, who is power ranked #1 nationally at Sports Flashes.
You should see my angry stare when I'm trying to get someone to go to break. Legendary Kansas head basketball coach Bill Self was hospitalized with unknown but serious symptoms and had 2 stents inserted, according to sources. Self is expected to make a full recovery. Self missed the 2023 Big 12 tournament due to chest tightness and dizziness and underwent a heart catheterization and had 2 stents inserted then as well. Self is repeatedly dismissed retirement. Keep working as long as you can. The first major trade in MLB leading up to next Thursday's trade deadline is in, as the Mariners acquired slugger and first baseman Josh Naylor from the Diamondbacks in return for 2 pitching prospects. 28-year-old has one of the lowest strikeout rates in the league and is hitting .292 with 11 home runs, 59 RBIs, and only 49 strikeouts. Carolina Hurricanes round out their free agency class by signing forward Jackson Blake to an 8-year, $45 million contract extension. I'm just not even going to push the thing. You guys can just watch me edit. Well, they can't actually see me edit, but I'm editing, and as I'm talking, because multitasking and stuff. Dude. If I ever did have to find another career, man, I hope it has to do with math because, math is just so much fun. It's amazing. Especially, trigonometry because I was, it's so glad I took that because it's really helped me. Yeah, and July's not over yet, though. So, I mean, let's get July out of here.
Who?
July.
Oh.
I'm sorry, July. Is that better?
July.
Let's get July on up out of here and get to August.
I agree with you, Joey B. But I think I used the term tragic in terms of what could have been and was, not to some degree, I think was demolished by his own actions. Like, not tragic in that, tragic that he held the view and said some of the things that he said and did some of the things that he did. The Friday edition. Yeah, you know what? Let it roll. Let's do it. Sorry, people on the stream. You don't get to party because they keep taking my stream down. You on the radio? Let's get it. Everybody, thank God it's Friday. Sorry, I didn't really lean into that one. Do it on this one. Thank God it's Friday, Friday, yeah. The Rob Brown Show wrapping up the broadcast week here on the Fan Upstate. If we are the first people telling you that it's Friday, thank God it's Friday, you're welcome to the party. If you already knew it was Friday,
it's weird.
Let's get funky.
Even James is like, I didn't realize it was Friday. Just like, again, I legitimately came in and said, hey, Rob, did you know it's Friday? Because it's been a weird, even though it hasn't been, that, oh man, work's been rough. I can't believe, maybe for you because of the travel, but it's just, it really feels like Friday today.
It is definitely that. I have been on the road for, I was on the road Sunday through Thursday of last week, so 5 days away from the crib. I was on the road Monday through Thursday this week, so 4. I have been on the road for 9 out of the past, 12 days? And life goes back to normal to some degree for next week, although obviously next week is the start of football season as we have an actual football game, preseason NFL, but shut up, it's going to be awesome. We do have NFL preseason football on Thursday of next week, and that's got to be enough to hold the palate for effectively 7 days, because it is the Thursday after that we start getting full week 1 NFL preseason ball, and we will have football on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the weekend after that. So hang in there, y'all. It's just around the corner. But it does, and I think that's got kind of sort of the build up. The reason that today feels especially Friday-ish. Of course, don't forget to listen to Bet for the Cycle tomorrow noon to 4, because it is my Friday, but also I work on Saturday, so it ain't all the way there. I'm going to tell you this right now. On Sunday,
I also work on Saturday.
So Alonso works on Saturday too. Neither of us, we both work 6 day weeks. Of course, do not forget to listen to the Upstate Pulse every Saturday from 7 to 9 on our brother station, WORD, your pop culture nerd show.
You consider your Saturday show work?
Yes and no. It's work in that, I'd probably on a lot of days love to get out and go sit in the sun, drink a beer, play some golf, whatever. On the flip side, I genuinely enjoy doing the show with Cody Decker. And also, I don't really have to do a lot for that show. I just kind of show up and Double D gives us a rundown, and then Deck and I ignore it and talk about whatever we want to talk about for 4 hours. So it works great. Kind of like me. Like, I make a rundown every day, and then I barely stick to it at all.
He stopped. I mean, he used to be a Google Doc and everything. It probably still is. But it's not where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing, no breakdowns in the hour. It's
I lay out the stories that I'm going to get to. I just also recognize, like, enough of the time when I go this segment, then this segment, then this segment, what ends up happening is, like, I'll bring up a story that I don't think is really that big of a deal and you guys latch onto it, or I'll bring up a story that I think is going to be a big time deal and you guys don't. Like, I'll be honest, I thought this Donald Trump EO story was going to be massive today. I've gotten like 2 texts on it so far.
Yeah, because it's Friday and it's politics, and people are just like, see, I am very ordered and regimented on Saturday. I mean, I get to everything. I just don't do it in the order. Just like you try to get to everything and don't do it in the order of it's. It's not wherever the wind blows. It's wherever, someone will say something or someone will respond to something on text or on stream, and you got to go with that because it's fun.
That's it.
In the end, radio still should be fun.
I don't disagree with that. All right, now let's get to obviously the biggest story of yesterday. I do not think that you need to be a lifelong fan of professional wrestling to understand what Hulk Hogan was, what Hulk Hogan is, what Hulk Hogan meant, not just to professional wrestling as an art form, as an industry, but also meant to the American zeitgeist, to pop culture as a whole. You didn't have to be a wrestling fan when Hulk Hogan was at his peak.
Yeah, Rob and I both got banned from Russia and Belarus thanks to Hulk Hogan.
100%.
So, yeah, we're good with that though.
Hulk Hogan is to me and my life, a very complicated figure because I, like most people my age, and I would even say like most people older than me, because Hulk Hogan hit his, I would say, prime around the mid-1980s. WrestleMania and I were both born in 1985. WrestleMania 1 was arguably, with Hulk walking out with Mr. T, WrestleMania 1 was arguably a pinnacle milestone moment in professional wrestling because WrestleMania 1 was the first wrestling show that got 1 million viewers on it. It was on closed circuit TV, a.k.a. the early days of pay-per-view, and it had 1 million people watching it, and Hulk Hogan was the centerpiece of that.
By the way, I was my senior year of high school was 1985. So, and the thing was, you knew where wrestling was on Saturday nights at 6:05, 7:05, but it wasn't what the then WWF became thanks to Hulkamania. And the very first WrestleMania, my uncle had one of those huge satellites where you could, not really pirating. I mean, the show shows up on your screen, you watch it, and he had a VCR that was like the size of this board. And he recorded the first WrestleMania. My papa lived across the street, brought it over to my papa. I've said many times that he was bedridden. Brought it over, and I got to watch WrestleMania 1 with my papa, just me and him in that room watching it, and it was amazing. And he absolutely hated Hulk Hogan because he said Ric Flair would whoop his butt up and down the road, and I don't know if my grandpa thought it was real or not, but he sure did seem serious.
And I'm sure there's...
But what a blast that was. And then Saturday night's main event was hitting, everything, and it's all... You can say some of it's Vince McMahon, and see, that's another person who we know has a whole lot of bad stuff going on. But without those two together, no one would be talking about wrestling right now, probably.
I agree. And that is part of the reason why, as a fan of professional wrestling, as I think all of you have learned, that those of you who hate it, fine, but like you cannot ignore its popularity. They are, with regularity, selling out NFL stadiums And now, not just selling out NFL stadiums, they are selling out some of the largest stadiums in the world, around the world, in other countries, non-English speaking countries. Saudi Arabia is paying WWE billions with a B of dollars to run events over there, to the point that we're about to lose one of the big pay-per-views to Saudi Arabia because of how much money they pay to get wrestling over there. None of that is that without Hulk Hogan. There is no doubt about that. Hulk Hogan was the institution of professional wrestling when wrestling made its way out of the old territorial days where you had a bunch of companies, they were all over, and like the champ of one territory would travel to another, and that was a big deal, but ordinarily they kind of stayed within their geographical constraints. Around the time that VKM took over for his dad and started to buy up these territories and form them into this national conglomerate that would become the WWE, obviously years on down the line, Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan were and there was a couple other guys thrown in that mix, but I would even say Hulk Hogan being the babyface in every story, Hulk Hogan is the reason that it became what it has grown into today. But then there is the complicated side of Terry Bollea, of Hulk Hogan, the actor Terry Bollea, who played Hulk Hogan on screen.
So do you believe the don't speak ill of the dead?
No, I do not.
That? Okay.
I'll tell you what the rule that I have subscribed
This is like how we can't supposedly watch Cosby Show, eat Jell-O, listen to a Diddy track. I mean, these are people who were so big at a certain time, and then you find out bad. And by the way, Hulk Hogan, bad stuff, not nearly as bad as the other two that I mentioned, but still.
I wouldn't disagree, but there is the concept of so I'll start with the first thing you said, the concept of don't speak ill of the dead. The philosophy that I have landed on over the years is I speak of the dead with the same respect that they showed to other people. And so if I think you are someone who was a bad person, I got no problem with speaking ill of the dead. Now, that's not to say I'm going to speak ill of Hulk Hogan here. I'm not. What I am going to say is, as Hulk Hogan retired from full-time professional wrestling and obviously moved into the life of being a recognized celebrity as both Hulk Hogan and Terry Bollea. Because remember, Terry Bollea got so big that he wasn't just Hulk Hogan, the actor in wrestling. This guy had a TV show, Thunder in Paradise. I watched that show all the time as a kid.
You mentioned it, and I see him on the boat.
Thunder in Paradise. Mess with him, and you're playing with your life. Like, I used to have that theme song memorized. I remember the Big Black Boat. They filmed it down in Florida. Like, I love that show. Hulk Hogan starred in plenty of movies. He was in other TV shows. He was animated. In every cartoon I watched as a kid, Hulk Hogan met Scooby-Doo and the gang. Hulk Hogan was in G.I. Joe. Hulk Hogan was in Transformers. He was in every show that I watched as a kid. He was a global phenomenon. But then, as I grew up and I became an adult and I stopped seeing the world through the eyes of a child where everything is awesome. And I would love to live in a world where we could all live that way. I hadn't even mentioned Thunder Lips in the Rocky franchise, right? As I grew up into an adult who recognized that while I would love and still regularly do, Zoe and I, try to look at the world through a child's eyes and take joy where things give you joy. In order to be a functioning adult in society, you do have to look at the fact that sometimes the world's not perfect. And especially if you develop the mindset of I want to fix it or make it better or leave it better than I found it, which was how my dad told me to do everything in my life, you have to be able to look at and address things that happen that aren't good and to call them out as not good and to act in a way that you can fix them or leave them better. And obviously, once he became celebrity Hulk Hogan, Terry Bollea, celebrity Hulk Hogan and not wrestler Hulk Hogan had a lot of problems and said and did a lot of things that if they were said and done by people I considered friends, I wouldn't consider them friends anymore. I would not want them in my sphere. Hulk Hogan was an openly, admittedly racist person. He said it. This isn't me judging him. He said, yeah, I guess I'm a little racist. After using the N-word multiple times, After in fact, there was his son got involved in a car accident years ago, and on the body cam of an officer, he said his biggest concern was he hoped that his family wasn't reincarnated as a black family. He thought that would be the ultimate punishment for what happened that night. No, that's not good. These aren't things to be not even celebrated. These are things to be actively and openly condemned. That's not okay. And so this is kind of one of those spots where the line between actor and product, where do you draw the line between the art and the artist, becomes for me somewhat blurry. Now, I will say that there was kind of a jumping off point well before all of that became public for me, because as I became a wrestling fan who got out of the viewing wrestling as like a real thing as a kid, these aren't characters, these are people, and I started learning about the concept of kayfabe and acting and that these guys aren't these guys in real life, whatever. And once wrestlers got to a point where they started to have more power than the company, which is still an ongoing fight, by the way, and again, Hulk Hogan influence here. Once actors started being able to speak away from their character as real people, we learned a lot about Hulk Hogan behind the scenes. Hulk Hogan would not have been Hulk Hogan if he didn't utilize the power that he had as Hulk Hogan, the wrestler, to make a lot of other wrestlers' lives and jobs worse. He made a lot of people's lives worse off so that he could be Hulk Hogan. And on one hand, professional wrestling would not be professional wrestling without Hulk Hogan. On the other hand, who knows if there would have been another Hulk Hogan or Rowdy Roddy Piper or Macho Man Randy Savage, etc., had Hulk Hogan not been the guy who stepped on a lot of necks to become the character that wrestling needed.
Not justifying this, but I've heard it said many times on these airwaves that sometimes to get ahead in this business, you've got to be a jerk. And I think that's probably the case in many forms of entertainment.
I don't dispute that either. But I also think that there is a difference in competition for a job, because I do think you have to be a fierce competitor to get in this job. Again, when I applied for this job, I don't know how many people applied, but I know for a fact that I was reached out to by at least 10 who said, hey, congrats on getting the job.
It was a lot.
I know it was a lot, right? Now, did I feel the need when I found out that this other guy was a finalist to go through his social media and find problematic stuff, or go listen to old segments that he maybe said something that was an issue and send that to the boss and go, hey, listen to this. You better not hire that guy. Read this tweet. No, I didn't do any of that. I said, look, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to send him the best demo stuff I can come up with. I earned an audition, great. I'm going to go up to Greenville, South Carolina, and I'm going to do the best damn 3 shows of audition that I can come up with, and I'm going to try to earn this job and be better than everybody. And if I get the job, there are going to be other people who are going to say, if I don't get this job, I'm out of the industry. I know that because that's the position I was in. I think there's a difference between voracious competitor versus somebody who acts maliciously towards other people that you are in competition with to keep them down. And I'm not saying it doesn't happen anywhere else. I'm just saying that in terms of the stories we have learned, and I promise you, if there are guys that are big stars right now and the same stories come true about them 5, 10, 15 years later, it's going to make them complicated subjects that we talk about too. But the issue for the Hulkster was that if you take all the stories of who he was as a person off screen in his prime Hulk Hogan days, and then you pair them up with who he clearly was as not Hulk Hogan, as Terry Bollea, a private guy. If you pair that up, what you get is a guy without whom the art form and product that I love as an adult probably doesn't exist, or at least not the way it does today. But also with a guy who, to me, absolutely should not be celebrated. Absolutely should not be endorsed. I should not be out there going, I love Hulk Hogan, because I don't.
I will say, as a kid, and I guess I was a young adult when this happened, and I'm just going to talk about Hulk Hogan, the character. When Hulk Hogan, the character, was shown as the third man and the NWO was born, something in me died.
Yeah.
Because I was that kid who believed in everything he said, and that's what made that turn what it was.
The best of all time.
Yes.
Best of all time.
Because I was one of those, like I said, one of those kids that grew up with him, was at the right age, and then he did that. And as far as wrestling goes, it's still one of the greatest moments of all time.
Without a doubt. But again, part of that is because who Hulk Hogan was as a wrestling character for so many years is the ultimate American icon. So on one hand, I think all of that is important, and all of that is a wrestling timeline that deserves to be discussed and talked about how important it was. But also, I think it is important that we also acknowledge that Hulk Hogan got to that spot by actively hurting a lot of people to get there and making a lot of demands that only he could make that put other people down to get there. And then to talk about the actor, this person was a way that brought this character to life, because I'll tell you, who Terry Bollea was as a person down the line was, to me, directly antithetical to who Hulk Hogan was to me as a kid, as an inspiration, as an influence. That is why it is tragic. All of Terry Bollea's issues that make him a tragic character, let's keep it a buck, are of his own making. They were of his beliefs, his words, and his actions. He's the reason that we are having the conversation the way we're having. The tragic aspect about it is that if he had not been that guy, if he would have been more Hulk Hogan than Terry Bollea, I think he would have been, and I mean this, one of the most celebrated Americans of all time. And I just don't think he's going to get there because of who he was.
Instead, the majority of this, you've done nothing but be negative about him.
Buddy, when a guy openly and consistently uses the N-word to describe people, yeah, I'm going to be negative about that, and I'm not going to be told that's a bad thing. I'm not going to be told that I should be like, oh, no, celebrate the actor, like celebrate the product.
By the way, don't make it, and I'm not
saying you're doing this.
Right.
But a lot of people online are, right?
But that's made it look like I condone that behavior.
No,
but I do not.
Alonzo does not, just to be clear.
I am just talking about wrestling and what he did for wrestling.
As a wrestler,
yeah.
Hulk Hogan is the single most important person in the history of an art form that now sells out 70, 80, 90,000 person stadiums repeatedly. None of that would be that, or at least not the way it is without Hulk Hogan. But I also think that it is hard to say we can talk about that without talking about who the person who portrayed him was and what that did to the image of the greatest and most important wrestler of all time in the minds of us who those two worlds blur with each other on the edges sometimes. I think that's all on Terry Bollea. All right, back after this on the Rob Brown Show. Rob, the great Lonzo, and you know what? Real quick, Nettie Mac said, I've had so many friends say the same thing. They are mourning the nostalgic Hulk Hogan instead of Terry Bollea, and I think that is a fair way to put it. I mourn the loss of Hulkamania, brother. I don't really mourn the loss of Terry Bollea. It is what it is. Back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. I saw the face. I'll stand by that if I get called on it. 1,000% I'll stand by that. As a complete left-hand turn, I have to go home and catch up on every episode of Quarterback because apparently Joey Burrow is the most fascinating person on earth. He now has a take on boats. WrestleMania 9, dude. Yeah, I was at. I told you I was at WrestleMania 30 when Hulk was the special guest, and he came out with Stone Cold and The Rock, and he said, "I remember when I body slammed Andre the Giant at WrestleMania here at the Silverdome, brother," and we were all like, "Wrong place, dude. Wrong place, Hulkamania. Wrong place." It was one of the funniest moments ever because it took him a minute to realize what he said, and he did correct it, but it was hysterical. Be right back. One more take before we put this Hulk Hogan thing to bed for the time being. Dewey texted the show. He said, Hulk Hogan really wasn't a decent human, but honestly, how many celebrities are? And I think that's very fair. And what I texted back to Dewey was, that is a fair point, and it's one of the reasons that as an adult, I try not to, and I'm not saying I never do, but I try not to elevate celebrities to hero or icon status. I try not to do that because even though I think we do need heroes. I think the reason, as kind of a brief swerve aside, I think the reason over the years that comic book hero movies became like the thing in movies was because we need heroes. We need people to look up to and aspire to. And whether that's Batman or Iron Man or Captain America or whoever, we need someone to look up and aspire to.
Left Superman out of
Superman?
The most looked up to.
Well, for a long time, I didn't get Superman's to look up to. That's kind of my problem. Now we have one, because Superman's back. We need heroes. We want heroes to look up to make us have some. You always want to strive to be better. When you have someone that illustrates what you want to be, I think that's great. And as an adult, I try not to make celebrities that. There are a few of them, very few, who I think eventually get there, that you go, you know what? This guy, the way he talks, acts, whatever, he's made it to that level. And one of the unfortunate parts about that is that if something ever comes out about that guy or that gal, it becomes to some degree demoralizing. One of the biggest reasons to me that Hulk Hogan becoming Terry Bollea, who I have a lot of problems with as a person, is so disappointing is because while as an adult I try not to elevate celebrities to hero status, as a kid that's impossible, right? Like as a kid, it is impossible. And whether it's your favorite athlete or your favorite wrestler or your favorite movie star or your favorite musician or whatever, it becomes difficult as a child. And honestly, for many of us, difficult as an adult, not to elevate someone to hero status so that if and when something comes out that falls short of that ideal for you, it knocks them off the pedestal. I'll give you one from my adult life, Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl. How many times did I say over the years, Dave Grohl's my hero? Because Dave Grohl is just this great dude, and you know he's regularly out there, contributing, donating, serving food at homeless shelters, and he doesn't bring cameras with him. Like he got caught doing that effectively. And musically, as a musician, Dave Grohl has put together years of one of the last remaining true rock and roll bands, in my opinion. And then it turns out Dave Grohl treated his wife and his family like crap for a long time. People who trusted him, probably the people who trusted him the most, treated him like crap and then knocked off a pedestal. Now, there are some people who have a real-life redemption arc, who recognize and realize that I've been a bad person, I've done bad things, and they try to fix that. They try to become a better person. And we should celebrate that. But Hulk Hogan wasn't one of those, Terry Bollea wasn't one of those people. So I idolized Hulk Hogan as a kid for years. And then I found out that Hulk Hogan wasn't Hulk Hogan. He was this other dude who acted in ways and said things that are disgusting to me, unacceptable to me, maybe irredeemable to me. That doesn't stop who I, as a kid, I still would like to think that. I, as a 40-year-old, still strive to be who Hulk Hogan wanted me to be as a 5-year-old, as a 10-year-old, who Hulk Hogan wanted me to be as a person. And while I may even now have some philosophical differences with Hulk Hogan, the wrestler, Hulk Hogan, the wrestler, was still the guy that was, dude, if you get your ass knocked in the dirt, Hulk up, right? Get up, shake your fist, yell a little bit, shake the ropes, and then throw some damn punches and get yourself back in the fight. Is that a childish approach to overcoming adversity and being better? Yeah, of course it is. But also, who did that you know how much that meant to me as a kid? When Rowdy Roddy Piper, a wrestling character that now is an adult, I absolutely love because I recognize, much like we did with Steve Austin in his days. And by the way, speak of redemption arcs, Stone Cold Steve Austin was a bad guy. But Stone Cold Steve Austin, as far as we can tell, has, since he got into a ton of trouble, strive to become a better person and to put that guy in the past and done a good job of that, right? So with Hulk Hogan, as a 6-year-old, when you watch Roddy Piper, a character who now, much like Steve Austin, I identify with as an adult because I recognize that the problems I have with Hulk Hogan as an adult were the problems that Roddy Piper had with Hulk Hogan as a character back in the day. So I identify with Roddy Piper as one of my favorites of all time. But when as a kid, when I didn't understand and Rowdy was just a bad guy who did bad things for bad reasons, and when he got Hulk knocked to the canvas, and when he had the match won, and then you saw Hulk start shaking his head and that skullet started flying around. And when Hulk started raising those arms and pumping those arms, and he'd take a punch to the face, and then he'd raise him and shake him again, take another punch, and then he'd look out to the crowd, and the crowd would go bananas, and he'd shake him again, and then eventually get up, and he would point that finger at Roddy Piper, and you'd see the fear on Roddy Piper's face. And then Hulk Hogan, who seconds ago, the match was over. He should have given up. He was knocked down. He was getting his ass whipped. He stood up, and he pointed at the problem, and then he attacked it. And he did not relent until he got past the problem and he won the match. As an adult, that's the attitude that I want to bring to problems. Even if they knock me down, I want to get up. I want to Hulk up. I want to shake the skullet. I want to point the finger. I want to raise the ear to the crowd. I want to get him riled up, and I want to Hulk out on that problem, brother. That's why wrestling's great, especially as a kid. But as a kid, you can't separate those two entities. That's just Hulk Hogan. And then you find out as an adult, like, that dude wasn't the dude you thought he was. It doesn't mean that you can't strive to meet who Hulk Hogan wanted you to be as an 8-year-old. And that is still something I hold. Even if Terry Bollea was a bad person, and I respectfully think he was, I can still look back at the character he put on television and go, man, I remember watching wrestling with my dad, who was a big Ric Flair guy, and I understand that now. I understand that. I want to be rich. I want to be a celebrity. I want to walk into every bar and have people go, damn, that's Rob Brown. I want to be with that guy. Hell yeah, I want a Rolex and a limousine and a private jet. Whoa, I can't woo anymore. I lost the woo. I don't know where it went. I got to get that back. But I want to be that guy.
It's been a rough couple of weeks.
It's been a rough couple of weeks. Yeah. Well, a little honey and bourbon this week. We'll see if we can get the woo back by Monday. But I want to be that guy. Ric Flair in real life, not a great guy. Not a great guy. But Ric Flair, the character, now as a 40-year-old, I'm like, yeah, I mean, in real life, like, that's who I want to be. But to get there, I understand that if there's a problem, if there's a challenge, an obstacle, I got to be the guy Hulk wanted me to be to get there. And that's why a conversation like this is, to me, important and interesting about, again, like, I don't know that I would have this conversation about most wrestlers from my childhood. There's a couple. Hulk Hogan is the poster boy. He is the face of professional wrestling. And he was the face of a lot of childhoods, mine included, which is why what Terry Bollea Hulk Hogan became later in life, or maybe eventually revealed himself to be, kind of made it problematic. All right, we'll put that to bed. When we come back here in just a minute, just to have some fun on the way out the door on a Friday and to lift the heavy veil that has been placed on this show. Ryan McGee, not yet, but he owes me one, soon to be buddy of the show, has ranked the best mascots in college sports, but he did it in divisions, and I like that. So we're going to address that when we come back here in just a minute. Who are the best, division by division, mascots in college sports? That's next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Live the gimmick. Look, I would be lying to say that while it is honest of me to say, and I think anybody who knows me would back this up, on-air Rob Brown is a exaggerated version of Rob Brown, the regular person. Like, the takes aren't different. I might be a little louder and more demonstrative when I'm on a mic. It is to some degree, a characterization, a caricature of who I am in real life. I'm loud in real life. I get told that all the time. My wife points it out regularly. I'm a loud person. I'm loud on the air. I'm over the top in my goofballness in real life, but I up at the 10 on the air. It is to some degree, and you know, it's because it fits this conversation, to some degree, a kayfabe version of me on the radio is a kayfabe version of me in real life. But at the same time, like, I do believe in being genuine and honest and upfront about all of that. And this is why I've said before, if I have to be disingenuous to be successful in this industry, I won't be successful with this in this industry, or at least, like rich and famous successful. I consider myself successful now. I live in a great place. I have a great show. I have phenomenal coworkers. I have content control of my own program, which a lot of hosts cannot say. I get to do awesome stuff with the sports teams in the community. I get to travel and do cool stuff. It's great. What?
You never mentioned your wife.
Well, I met her because of the job.
Yeah,
but I met my wife. I live in this great community. I was getting there. Point is, I have a great life because I am a genuine.
You need to learn to read lips, man. I try to wingman you all the time and try to help you. You just don't get it.
I have a genuinely wonderful life because being genuine on the radio has led me here. It may not lead me any further, and that's okay if it doesn't. I'm happy with where I am. But I'm going to be genuine, and I try my best, though I fail. And I am sure just like anybody else. If you went digging through my old stuff, I've probably said some stuff that would be problematic now, which is why I also try to, as I've done with college football players and NFL players in the past, like, man, if somebody digs up a tweet from 1999 that somebody said that's problematic now, if I look at it through the prism of 1999, yeah, I probably said some stuff that would get me canceled if I said it today. I'm a believer in putting things that people say and do into the perspective of the time in which they said and done them, but there are some things that, like the stuff Terry Bollea was saying was like 5 years ago. It's not like distant past.
I think it's further back than that. But still, I mean, I could be wrong, but I think
but again, even still, the accident with the body cam, that wasn't but like a couple of years ago, right?
No, it was a lot longer.
It was 2000. It was last year. It was January of last year. It's barely a year and a half old at this point, right? So
I thought you were talking about the Gawker thing.
No, I'm talking. No, that was way in the past.
Yeah,
and honestly, that I don't even care. Honestly, I don't even care about that. Right? If that's the Hogan that Hogan wanted to be in, I've said the same thing about Tiger Woods. In my eyes, Tiger Woods made zero mistakes except getting married. Should have never got married. If Tiger Woods would have done everything he did without getting married, I'd have been the first guy in line to defend Tiger every time. It is not up to you. You can judge what people do, but Tiger didn't do anything wrong, in my opinion. If Hulk Hogan wanted to get with his buddy's wife, and the buddy's wife were fine with it, and they wanted to film it or whatever. Now, I'm not going to even say the loser's name, the host did, by revealing it when he wasn't in agreement with Hulk Hogan. That's more problematic than what Hogan did, right? And for the record, I said at the time, I'm glad Hogan won that lawsuit. $110, $15 million, whatever. I'm glad he won it. He deserved it. But the stuff like he did at the car accident with the body cam less than 2 years ago, that's not like, oh, that's in the distant past, right? Like, my grandma probably said some stuff back in the 70s that I would be ashamed of today, but also in the 70s, that's not like it was out of the norm. There will be stuff that we say and do today that 20 years from now isn't okay anymore. And there will be stuff that we say and do 20 years from now that probably isn't okay now. That's kind of how it works. But Hogan said it, and he doubled down on it multiple times. That's the problem. And that is why, like I said, I don't celebrate deaths, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm in deep in mourning over it. I mourn the death of Hulk Hogan.
But if you're only going to be mostly negative, why bring it up? Then this is just
because I don't think I can sit here and say I'm celebrating the life of Hulk Hogan without pointing out that there's a lot not to celebrate. Soon to be, because I did see him this weekend at ACC Media Days, and we did chat.
You've seen him multiple times.
I'm gonna tell you right now, when Ryan McGee gets on the show, he's gonna get busted up for a minute, and he knows it. I told him that. We talked at ACC Media Days. He was there for one day. We chatted very briefly. I was like, "You remember me?" And he goes, "Star Wars dude." And I'm like, "Yep, that's exactly right." And then I reminded him that we had Marty Smith on the show last year or whatever, late last year, and I told Marty the story of the fact that I've been stood up by Ryan a couple of times, and Marty legitimately real life texted him off the air. And Ryan texted me back later and was like, hey, jackass, why are you going to pretend like we've texted a million times? But in fairness, the last couple times I texted Ryan, I was like, I have a show on weekdays from 6 to 10. I will prioritize you. You tell me when you're coming on the air, and I will make that segment available, and I just haven't heard back. So all that being said, whatever. I for the record, I love Marty and McGee. I love Marty and Ryan both as people, as broadcasters. I have spoken with both. They're both incredibly nice human beings. IRL. Honestly, I've said this, and this is not a joke. Marty and McGee is my favorite radio show, and that includes mine. I like their show more than I like my show. And as T.O. once said, I love me some me. So
I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, right. So Ryan locked down the best mascots in college football in 2025, but he did it, interestingly enough, by divisions. Here's the rundown. He started with the costume division.
Okay, because I was curious what you meant by
not
divisions.
like East, West, South, North, but like style of mascot. Because I think that's fair. But costume division, these are mascots who rely solely on the identifiability of their costume. They are unique costumes. They are different. It's not like a tiger, right? Like it's a thing. He starts with the number 5 spot, and I'm going to tell you straight up, the only one I disagree with, this should be number 1 bracket winner entirely. Keggy the Keg from Dartmouth. Dartmouth dropped the symbol and nickname Indians from their sports team in the 70s. They went with the Big Green in 2003. An on-campus humor magazine debuted an anthropomorphic beer keg and named it Keggy the Keg. And the students since then, despite the fact that Dartmouth administrators despised it ever since then, students have kept the spirit of Keggy the Keg alive, and Keggy the Keg now shows up at every sporting event supporting the Big Green. Keggy the Keg is my number 1 overall mascot in sports.
For someone deep in Pickens County that just went, answer what?
Keggy the Keg.
What's anthropomorphic?
It means a lifelike interpretation of a non-life thing. Right? Like if you take a rock and put eyes on it, you have now anthropomorphized it into a living being. They made a keg a character, and I'm for it.
All right.
Number 4, the Stanford Tree. Similar situation. Stanford were the Indians until the 70s. They dropped that. They became the Cardinal.
Stanford Tree is kind of creepy. I don't know why.
Kinda.
It's just creepy.
It's terrifying.
It's just very creepy.
It's a horror creature, without a doubt. The new mascot is chosen every year during the week with candidates auditioning in their own self-constructed costumes. The tree is actually not the official mascot of Stanford, but because they don't actively have a mascot, because they are a cardinal, not a bird, they're a color, he has become the tree. Number 3, Big Red from Western Kentucky, which is just just a blob.
Yeah,
he's just a terrifying red blob. That's all he is.
Like a tumor or something. It's just not, it's unsettling.
In the late 70s, the Hilltoppers needed a mascot. A cat by the name of Ralph Carey sketched out a red blob, built it with $300 worth of stuff that he bought at a hardware and craft store. It resulted in the blob coming to life, Big Red, number 3.
Why? Ralph is rolling in it. I got $300. Let me go make one of these things.
Number 2 in the costume division, Brutus the Buckeye checks in at number 2. Before 1965, there was no mascot. After flirting with the idea of bringing a live buck onto the sidelines of the Horseshoe, a student vote settled on Buckeyes, not the Bucks. You were almost the Ohio State Bucks.
Okay, so Brutus the Buckeye, would he be anthropomorphic?
Yes, because he's a nut.
Yeah, but
you brought him to life. He's a nut.
But it's a living thing.
Yeah,
it comes off of a tree, so the nut at some point was alive. So that's
fair. That's fair.
Still,
I don't think it necessarily has to be like dead to alive. I think it's taking something that does not have lifelike qualities and giving it lifelike qualities.
All right.
Brutus the Buckeye is number 2, and number 1, a Big Ten rival. How about the Duck? That I got to tell you, Zoe.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I feel for you, but this is a fine number 1.
No, that's good. Yeah. I mean, that duck's pretty famous.
McGee writes, quote, "We promise we're not just doing this because Walt Disney helped Oregon devise its mascot and ESPN as a subsidiary of the Walt Disney Co. We're doing it because as much as Brutus showed the sideline way, the Duck has written the book on how to be a feathered friend to one's fans. The Duck is also a menace to everyone around him at all times. I love it. I love the Duck. He's great. By the way, the Duck's appearances on the Pat McAfee show over the years have been iconic. Straight up legend.
Agreed.
He's great. Mechanized division. These are mascots who are known for being in, on, around some sort of machine. At number 5, Cocky and the Cockaboose. He checks in at number 5. He does call Cocky, quote, one of America's most underrated costume mascots with a big red-like bouncy body and the biggest feet this side of Shaquille O'Neal. Prior to every game at Willie B, amid the string sounds of 2001: A Space Odyssey, Cocky rides onto the field in a train pulling a red caboose, a nod to the folks in the Cockaboose luxury boxes partying outside the stadium and escorting Gamecock celebs from Marcus Lattimore to Darius Rucker. I'm going to tell you, the first South Carolina game I went to was 3 years ago. Against Florida. It was that upset game. And I got to tell you, not a South Carolina fan. I was only dating my girlfriend at the time. I lost it. Cocky and the Cockaboose, to me, second best mascot entrance in all of sports behind only Osceola and Renegade. Number 4, Monty on a Harley. Monty is, of course, the mascot of Montana. He's a big brown bear who rides and when I say this, dope-ass Harley Davidson out at midfield. That's a great pick.
Monty, not an actual bear.
No, not an actual bear.
Okay,
if they ever trained an actual bear to ride a motorcycle, straight to number 1 of every mascot bracket.
Yeah.
Number 3, Demon Deacon on the Chopper at Wake Forest. This is a good one because the Demon Deacon's mascot's motorcycle is cooler than Monty's motorcycle. It's a dope custom chopper, and I love it. Number 2 on the mechanized mascot list, he's got Buzz, the yellow jacket from Georgia Tech, riding out on the Rambling Wreck, and a hell of an engineer. This one is just like a vintage one with the current ride, a 1930 Ford Model A Sport Coupe that has led the team on the field since 1961. Buzz has been catching a ride since 1972. I'm going to say this one a legacy pick, and I have zero problem with it. Number 1 in the mechanized division, I got a problem with this, Ryan B, because it's not mechanized. The Sooner Schooner. The mascot is the Schooner.
Yeah,
there's not a mascot.
It's like
the Schooner is the mascot.
It's being led by
a team of horses.
Yeah, horses. So
with a bunch of cheerleaders around.
Yeah,
you know what my biggest problem with the Sooner Schooner is? It's like a quarter-size version. It looks ridiculous. Like the people riding on it are bigger than the thing they're riding on.
It used to be a dog food commercial with a little chuck wagon that would ride around. That's what it reminds me of that.
If this was a full-sized schooner, it would be great, but it's like half size. It's ridiculous looking. In the human mascots division, Vili the Warrior from Hawaii, and they always pick an actual Polynesian person to represent this, which is great. Comes out, does the hawk, everything. It's incredible. Osceola from Florida State at number 4.
Wait, how's he not number 1?
Osceola?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I take it back. I have 2 problems. Number 1, Keggy should be number 1, and Osceola should be number 1. I don't care if you hate Florida State. Osceola Renegade and riding out with a flaming spear is just the best entrance in sports. They have this one I despise from Ryan McGee. If I'm going to give him hell, it's on this. The Masked Rider of Texas Tech, which is cool, but you're telling me the Masked Rider of Texas Tech is cooler than Osceola and Renegade? You're telling me number 2, the Mountaineer from West Virginia, is cooler than... Look, it's cool. And like the dude who gets it every year commits. He's got to grow out the beard, be all scraggly all year long. That's great. But you're telling me that's cooler than Osceola? And number 1, the Notre Dame Leprechaun. Nah, I don't like that.
I mean, I appreciate it, but
that's
usually a real person too, right?
That's why. Yeah, it's always a real student.
Yeah. I think you got to go with Osceola as number 1.
Why don't you
make the Leprechaun number 2? I'm okay with him being number 2.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And finally, a very quick run through the live animal division. Number 5, the War Eagle from Auburn. Number 4, another problem I have, Mike the Tiger from LSU. It's a tiger!
It is a tiger.
It's an actual live tiger. How are you going to do cooler than that? His answer, number 3, Bevo at Texas. If you didn't...
That should be number 1.
I'm cool with that being towards number 1. They do turn him into hamburgers after his tenure, though.
Well, circle of life. And
number 2, and I'd be fine with this being number 1 over Mike the Tiger. Ralphie from Colorado is pretty kick-ass.
I was going to say, that's... Yeah.
And the fact that they let him run across the field and he regularly drags handlers with him... Like, if Ralphie ever decides, bleep this, I'm off leash, that's a problem. So I'm good with Ralphie. And number 1, sentimental Ugga from Georgia.
Yeah, I knew Georgia
sentimental favorite.
I knew that. That's a SEC home.
Yeah, sentimental favorite from that one.
And now, the Rob Brown Morning Show presents Twitter.
Are they on like UGA 55 now?
Yeah. By the way, Reveille, the Texas A&M dog, got glaucoma, and they had to remove her right eye. But they said she will be ready for the season. So this year, there is one soft spot in my heart for the Colt, and it's for Reveille, the Border Collie, who is going to tackle adversity with one eye. She will perform at Aggie games this year. There is only one Aggie I like, A&M fans, and that's Reveille.
I wonder if she's going to wear a patch. All right, the first thing that's Xing is Justin Fields.
Justin Fields Xing because as Alonzo ended yesterday with a kick in the nads to me by telling me he got carted off the field. It was out of precaution. Justin Fields dislocated his toe. Now, it's going to take some time for him to get right. He's going to miss some training camp time, but I do not think it is going to be enough for him. Oh, he's not. Oh, no, he's back out there today, I thought I read.
Yeah, I even sent you the video.
Or is he just out there?
Oh, he ran across the field and signed an autograph. So
Good.
I'm guessing he's practicing.
Good. I am glad to hear that. Honestly, I'm sincerely pulling for Justin Fields because he finally has some stability. Granted, ton of pressure in New York.
I don't know
but I'm
about
pulling
stability. If he tries to pivot on that thing, it's going to hurt.
I meant franchise stability because he's been in a pair of dumpster fires.
All right. The next thing that's Xing is Happy Gilmore 2.
Drop today, and I'm going to tell you, keep it a buck right now. It's what I'm doing today. Okay? I got to host BetMGM tonight. So sometime between here and 7 p.m., there are 2 movies this weekend I'm going to see. I will see Happy Gilmore 2 today because I'm not a big Adam Sandler guy, except Happy Gilmore and The Waterboy. Those are the 2 best Adam Sandler movies. And Happy Gilmore 2, with the entire PGA and Live Tour being involved, and there's like 10,000 cameos in this movie. I'm in for that. And by the way, the actor who played Shooter McGavin said that Scotty Scheffler was the best actor. So he's not just the best golf player on the planet.
I wish you would have told me that. So now I'm going to be judging him when I see him.
Hey, Shooter said he nailed it.
If I recognize him.
Shooter said he nailed it. I'm here for it.
All right. The reason why it's trending is because of Tiger Woods' swing. Tiger Woods does the Happy Gilmore swing.
Does he nail?
No. Look up the video, dude. I mean,
I will tell you every.
I was worried he's going to break his legs again, but it's just I'm not being mean.
No, it's a tough one.
To do what you have to do with that, you really got to put your weight on one of your legs, and it looked pretty good.
Every scratch garbage weekend hero golfer like me has tried the Happy Gilmore swing, and I mean it when I tell you, none of us can do it. I'm confident the only people in the world who would be, and I don't think Adam Sandler can do it in real life either. I think the only guys that I trust right now, if I had to put $1 million on pulling it off, are Scotty and Tiger.
He can do it in real life.
Can he do it? I've never seen it.
He had to practice more to get back into it. But
by the way, you ready for the fun stat of the day? Because I was going to do a segment yesterday or earlier this week on Scotty. If Scotty Scheffler, who has been number 1 in the world for 152 weeks, if he wants to tie Tiger Woods' record of being number 1 in the world, he will have to stay number 1 in the world until October of 2035.
Which is not really that far away.
10 years!
That's less than 10 years.
It is a world if you're 29 years of age.
That's true. 2 more really quick. The first one is Bryce Young.
Bryce Young is Xing. I don't know specifically why. I do know.
It's your baby boy's birthday.
BY, baby boy. BY, happy birthday, BY. And I just want you to remember that next year, when the Carolina Panthers win the NFC South, as I projected them to do, when they do, BY, and you get to the end of the year and you're getting calls and interviews about, hey, we want you on the show, I want you to remember, special baby boy Bryce Young, and now special baby birthday boy Bryce Young, I want you to remember, there was only one host in the entire upstate of South Carolina that had your back the whole time, and it's me. All right? That's my guy. James says, screw you, James.
And the last one is Sydney Sweeney.
Sydney Sweeney Xing.
I know she was Xing yesterday, but she's Xing again today for the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Even more so.
An ad campaign for, I guess, the old American Eagles now, the new American Eagle clothing line drop. But also, here's the other reason it's Xing.
Because any product that she endorses goes
to the moon.
Goes up by a major percentage.
But there's another reason. If you go search Sydney Sweeney on Twitter, there's certain movie clips that come up from old Sydney Sweeney movies that are, let's just say, do it on your private account, not your work account, is all I'm saying. All right? All right, that's going to be it. Yes, in 10 years, Rob will be 50. James, you absolute jerk.
Thank you for being accurate, James.
That's the worst part. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Thanks for being here. Enjoy your weekend. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. We'll see you back here Monday to do it all over again, but better on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Later. I turned my computer
I
sound
was
off.
gonna say I
That
waited.
was on me. That's on me. All right, dudes, dudettes.
By the way, if you're watching, well, you're watching. Just if you're going to watch Fantastic Four, do not stay for the last post credit. That's all I'm saying. You'll get my full review tomorrow, but spoiler free. But don't stay for the last. I used to do that joke where I'd tell people stay. It's very important, and you get like Scott Lang play the ant playing the drums. It's along those lines. Don't stay. It's not. Yeah, don't do it. Unless you want to hear a theater boo like I did. It was a rowdy theater, too. I mean, because it took a while for it to get on. And I kept thinking, why is that nerd so loud? And I am also a nerd. And why am I calling this kid a nerd in my head? But it was the tone of voice. And that guy in a crowd who's loud and then he gets a response. So he keeps going, and it steadily gets worse and worse and worse.
This is why I am so anti-get in the hole guy, because if get in the hole guy gets attention, it breeds a new generation of get in the hole guy. This is why I think get in the hole guy should be kicked in the back of the knee every time he says it. Hard. Knock him down.
It was the equivalent of that, and unfortunately, like right across the row from me. So.
All right, dudes and dudettes, y'all are spectacular. I got a bunch of stuff to do. We're going to be posting some sound from and clips from social media, from ACC Media Days over the next 24, 48 hours or so. Wire to Wire with Cole and Diesel. They are back in studio this afternoon as well, so make sure you check them out.
Don't check them out, but watch the show.
Check 'em out.
I mean,
Cole's been working out. Check him out. He'll feel good. Cole showed up yesterday. I know if you were watching the show yesterday, you saw it. Cole showed up in the single most floral shirt I've ever seen, and that includes the one I'm wearing right now.
Once he put the jacket on, he became a totally different person.
Completely different guy.
It was like unrecognizable in the background. I'm like, who's standing there?
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, that's Cole.
Because of that shirt. And I'll tell you what, and Cole Bryson knows this. You know what the utility of a floral shirt with a suit is that if you put the jacket on it and button it up, the floral shirt kind of disappears into the suit. So, like, they go, that's a guy who's, like, serious. Not, like, too serious, but serious. But then you drop that suit and you're just a loud floral shirt guy, and now you're the presence in the room.
It was an amazing transformation.
Floral dress shirts are, without a doubt, one of the most underappreciated, maybe even unknown tools in the wardrobe of a professional man. Because if you put on a floral shirt, you put a jacket over it, the suit becomes more powerful in terms of people's opinion than the ridiculous shirt you're wearing. But once you take that jacket off, you're just the gravitating force in any room. People are going to go, that's the fun guy. That's the guy I want to be around. And Cole Bryson, I recognized yesterday, took full advantage of that. Also, there was this very funny moment, and shout out to Chase Justice of WYFF for tweeting this out last night. At the beginning of Dabo's press conference at ACC Media Days, and I was in the room, they brought three guys up on the stage, and the one guy that did not come to the stage from the four-player contingent from Clemson was wide receiver Antonio Williams, who we had on the show, right? And so Dabo's up there on the stage, and he's like, well, I don't know where Antonio is. He's supposed to be up here, but he's not here, but we'll just shout out Antonio. It turns out the reason Antonio wasn't on the stage, great one, was because he was over in the EA Sports gaming station getting reps in on college football against the boys.
He's probably going to have to run some 40s for that. But
dude, hilarious. That's fantastic. All right, that is it for us, guys. Thanks for being here. Enjoy your weekend. Tell your friends about us. I don't ask for much, but I do ask that if you enjoy the show, tell your friends about us, because a lot of people hate me, so I got to set it off with people who like me. See you Monday. Goodbye.
All right, good. Now you hit. Oh.